Says I'm live. Let's check. Says I'm live on YouTube. It just said I'm live on YouTube. Okay. Anything? Aha!
Anything?
There we go.
Anything? There we go.
Oh, after 57 tries, a total, what did I do? I turned OBS off and turned it back on again. Oh, I had to reset the live stream. That's what it was. I had to reset the live stream. So, what do we do when this happens? I got it. So Craig is trying to call me. Thanks, Craig, for trying to help. Man. All right. So now let's just assume that we're on now, all right? Oh, what a morning. What a morning. Good morning, everyone. Let me go back to it, man. I got to go back to this then, don't I? I got to say, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. All right. Good morning, Lafayette. Welcome back to Let's Talk Lafayette. Finally, after we reset the entire reset of YouTube, that's what ended up doing it. And then we got our audio back. I'm your host, Brian Burden at Let's Talk Lafayette. And we're keeping it local with stories. And we're going to hit a home run today because there are all kinds of things happening. I like the word things. I don't know why it is. It's simple, it's easy. It covers a little bit of everything at any given time. And it covers what I just went through in the last, 35 minutes trying to make sure some kind of sound was coming out of this system. Hopefully you're checked in now and you're not checked into the one that doesn't have sound. I'll have to get rid of that after the show. But hopefully everybody is now hearing what is going on. Man, I am not just your local meteorologist and winter weather expert. I am a pastor at heart also. So we are going to have some fun. We are going to talk about a little bit about everything. I'm going to focus on weather at first. There was a national championship game last night. And yes, your Indiana Hoosiers are the national champions in football after being one of the worst teams just 2 years ago. So there is hope for Purdue, is there not? All right. So there you go on that front. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later too. But since it's 9:37, let's dive right into the weather. And I've already been talking for at least a half an hour. And we'll have to try to see what's going on that front. Let's go straight to it now. What has happened? Going to switch over screens. There we go. And hopefully I have you covered now. It is 8 degrees outside. Looks like it went back to the main screen. And this happened to me once yesterday too. Main screen there. There it goes. Oh, I'm just a delayed. I'm a delayed here. There we go. 8 degrees Fahrenheit outside right now. Sunny skies, 5 miles an hour. So your wind chill's just hovering around 0 in much of the local area. We're looking for a high on the model here. You just see the numbers kind of generated. 24 today, much better than the 10 to 12 maybe we got to yesterday at best. And then 38 for tomorrow. Here's the news on tomorrow. The bad news is this may be the warmest we get the rest of the month. 38 degrees tomorrow. It looks pretty chilly when I looked at the charts last night. We'll look at some of the new ones this morning, and we'll see if that kind of theory is continuing on with cold weather all month. But there's been some pluses with this too. Last week, I talked about a system coming in that may hit us Thursday into Friday and then again on Saturday this week. But then it could vary. It could go north and we could get some rain, or it could go south and we get nothing out of it. It appears right now we're going to be on the southerly part. It's going to go south of us, and we're just going to get a lot of cold weather out of it. Maybe some flurries here or there. Where the folks down in Tennessee and places where they don't get a lot of snow, Alabama, Mississippi, that kind of thing, may get tons of snow from that system. So we'll keep an eye on that one as we get closer and closer to it. But look at how we reinforce our cold weather later in the week. Friday, 6 for your high and only 11 on Saturday after lows of -3 and 9. Woo! Going to be cold and chilly. Let's get into that first satellite picture. And I like this satellite picture here. This is used at night. It gives me some lighter colors up here for really high clouds. The darker blues are more of a cloud that is in the mid levels. And just with a little mixture of the tops, you kind of get the idea over here. There is a scale way over to the right that kind of shows you what's going on. I think it's just off of your chart, but I can see it, and it kind of gives me a rough estimate of how high the clouds are above the ground and that kind of thing. And then the lower clouds are in this, like you can see a batch right here in southern Illinois. And when I first started talking just a half an hour ago, I was talking about the northern edge of this eroding, but it might just clip us and give us a cloud or two and maybe a flurry or two. It does look like we may get some of this mid-level moisture here to come through this afternoon, but at least for this morning, it's still going to be pretty much sunny conditions out there. And yes, I can see this temperature difference. I'm going to zoom in here on this. Well, the big picture is, look at it's dead quiet south of us right now. There's a high pressure system right here somewhere over Tennessee, and yesterday that pulled in northerly winds on us yesterday and northwesterly, which were a cold wind, correct? So usually that's the direction for cold winds. And then for the rest of the day, it started to shift slowly back around to the west as the high started moving around us. And on that front, we're now to our south, the high is, and our winds are coming out of the west and we'll shift to the southwest, already starting to see that. And we'll see a warm up or a little bit of a warm up today. Now, so not no big systems around the area at all right now, just kind of quiet there for us, just that big old high coming around us. When we look at us, here we are, right here's on the chart, and you see the change in color. So we were at like 0 this morning a few hours ago. Now we're already up to 8, and you can see that change. So the temperatures down here are your +5 to maybe +10 degrees, right? These are below 0 or at 0, and you see that kind of change. You also can pick out even some of the cities, the warmth of the cities in different places. You can see that pretty easily. While that purplish, bluish color is still there, you can pick out the lower clouds to our southwest. It looks like this entire northern edge is eroding. And then here's some of those mid-level clouds that'll be coming in, even upper level clouds later on this afternoon, probably 2-3 hours out still. It'll take a couple hours to cut across the state of Illinois to get towards us. Their trajectory is a little bit more like this, while this trajectory is it's just eroding on the north side. The air is very dry up here, obviously, right? And then you still see lots of snow coming off the backside of the lake with cloud cover and flurries to light snow for the folks there in Michigan. Very normal for them. They're kind of used to that, that's for sure. So let's go back to the charts now. And I say go back because I started looking at these before. And here's where we are right now. And this is that big picture, right? We see the snows coming off the lake up here. Lafayette is right about here in this spot, right? And just south of us, there over Kentucky and Tennessee, is where the high pressure system is. So our flow is clockwise around the high, right? We're starting to shift around to the southwest. There is relatively warmer air to our southwest, but it is still cold air. So we're not going to see a huge jump in temperatures until tomorrow, it looks like, once the high shifts off even farther to the east. Let's see where it goes, at least for a little bit here. And you notice it does just kind of slowly meanders off to the east. It reorientates. That's what you're seeing on the model. That's why you see so many different, you don't see just a circle moving to the side. But that's the high pressure moving there. And then we watch a little system come in from the northwest. This would be tonight, late tonight. And watch how it bumps along towards Chicago, maybe throws a few flurries or light snow on the northern side of Tippecanoe County up towards Rensselaer, definitely up towards LaPorte, South Bend, and off the lake. They're going to see some light snows with this low pressure system right here. Now, this is a clipper system. You see where it's coming from. It's kind of coming from the west this time, not quite full clipper system. So it has a little bit of moisture with it, but it just doesn't graze us. I'll be willing to bet that the NAM, when I look at the NAM, it does throw just some flurries and stuff on us tonight when it goes through. So keep that in mind. That is roughly right there. That's like midnight. Here we go. Midnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Chance for some flurries overnight there and some light snow, but it's very limited at best. And then it just keeps right on moving. And then we warm up tomorrow a bit. We can see a system down here starting to cut across. That's partially what they're going to see. Here comes a little clipper, more of a clipper. Notice the low is way up over Lake Michigan, up over Lake Superior, up over southern Canada, and a kind of a trough with maybe another small low associated with that. And you can kind of see the curl in the clouds there, give you an idea that there's a low pressure system there. And that clipper cuts across Thursday night. Now, we've been getting pretty lucky with most of our snows, very limited snows that we have been getting, just the dustings and stuff coming at night. But that does make for a slippery morning at times. So here we are at like this is 10 o'clock tomorrow night. So Wednesday night into Thursday, and it kind of just zips right on through and off it goes. That's those clipper systems. And then in comes another big high pressure system to reinforce the cold as we get into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, right? So high here yesterday, we were very cold. We had a northwest wind, very cold. It shifts around to the south. We were very cold this morning. As it's gotten to our south, the winds are starting to shift back around, and we're already starting to warm up a little bit. Same scenario with this high pressure. It's going to cut right across here over the next few days, and we're going to see those changes. Let's look at the temperatures real quick on this, though, for us. And we're going to go back here to where we are now. And here we are. What we say it was, it's 8 degrees currently out at the runway at the airport at Purdue. Let's see, where's the time frame? 15Z is 10 o'clock, so we're zooming in on that, and it does show us about 9 degrees, so don't be surprised if we go up another degree or two by that time frame. Lafayette right here where that 9 is, just so happens that they put one on top of us. It's kind of nice that they do that. I think they did that just for us. Oh, maybe. We'll see. But you notice how our temperatures grow, but they don't get that big, do they? Maybe 20, mid-20s. Let's go for mid-20s. Let's be optimistic. But it shows I saw a 23 in there was about the best right there. That is this afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock. And then the sun angle will start to go down a little bit, and it won't have its warming strength that it normally has. The 30s and 40s aren't that far away. Could something stream in here? Well, remember, we got some of that cloudiness maybe coming back across. That'll knock down some of the sun too. So let's call it 23 to maybe 25 for most of us, and a wind out of the south. So still a bit chilly with a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind, maybe even 15 at times. So it'll feel like it's 10 out there. You definitely want to bundle up, but not nearly as bad as it's been the last couple days. Then overnight, we don't get back into the single digits, but we do drop down into the low teens. Looks like I can see 14 in our local area potential. And then the influence of the low is already starting to come in for tomorrow night, right? So this is this is for tonight. We see that low zipping across there, and it just kind of keeps us warm overnight. We don't get nearly as cold tomorrow morning. We bottom out somewhere around 20, 21, but that's this 19 even shows there. But that's like 9 o'clock tonight when that happens to midnight. And then it actually starts to warm up a little bit as the influence of the low pressure system cutting across the southern portion of Lake Michigan. And remember, even a little southerly trajectory with this, a little more in the next 6 hours or so, could bring us a little bit of that light snow tonight. But right now, most of it looks to stay north of us. And then it goes by pretty quickly, helps warm us up tomorrow. There we are in the mid 30s, maybe 35 to even 40 is a possibility. Again, all dependent on cloud cover that goes through. Before we get here comes the next trough that we were just talking about, around the low to the north of us, and then boom, in comes the next reinforcing shot of cold air. You got minus 12s up in northern Wisconsin, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, 0, that kind of thing. Chicago back down to 11. Here we are Thursday morning at like 15, 16 degrees, so we're going to be cold again. Winds are picking up a little bit. You can see it's a much windier up over Lake Michigan, but we'll be keeping an eye on the weather changing and the patterns there. Now let's go to the NAM and see what the temperatures do here. Let's go back a little bit and see what we see there for like. See, it's showing just very similar, almost the same trajectory and path. There comes the low across. So the NAM is the North American model. It's a little different than the HER. The HER is more an hourly model. This is every 3 hours. It goes out a little bit farther, though, than the HER does. So now we're talking, here's Thursday morning. All right. Thursday morning, it says we get back down to 17 or so. So like an up down kind of period where the other model showed maybe some warming still in the morning on Thursday morning before that reinforcing shock comes through. So that would be there it is right there. It's about the same, but the single digits are off to our northwest. And then we start to warm up just a little bit, low to mid 20s at best on Thursday into Friday. All right. And then the high is there. And then look what happens Friday night into Friday. This is Friday morning. So this is Thursday night into Friday morning. Bam, there we are. -2 is not very far away over here in Joliet. Kankakee area, 0, that kind of thing. 4, it shows in Lafayette. I would go a little colder. There we go. 1, down to 0. And so Friday morning, as a matter of fact, if you look at this, this is Friday afternoon, right? 00Z is 7 o'clock in the evening. It actually shows falling temperatures throughout the day. So here you are. You're actually going to be the warmest Friday at 20 degrees or 18 degrees, like midnight, and then it's just going to slowly fall as the day goes on as that big cold weather pushes in. Those temperatures are dragged into us and we get that reinforcing shot, and there we are. By the evening we're back down to 0 Friday evening, so very chilly on that front. And then let's check the GFS real quick, see what it says for that same time frame, and it shows us pretty much around 0. And then what does it do? It doesn't get us above about 5 on Saturday, there maybe back to 10 or 12. Good news is here, it doesn't show the cold hanging around for Saturday and into Sunday as much. Okay, relatively cold, which is below 0 is what we're talking about, right? It's still going to be cold outside. 14, 15, 16 degrees, stays cold, stays cold. Look at this. There's a big pocket down here where it shows some really cold temperatures. I'm not sure I believe in this at the moment. With us being warmer, yes, this could be cloud cover for us, and this could be wide open sky, and that's why they're getting so cold. This seems a little overboard for next Tuesday for the folks down in Tennessee and temperatures below 0, but we'll see what happens there on that front. And then it just kind of keeps us below normal temperatures. We maybe get back up to there's a 30. What is that? That's a 38, but that's way out next Wednesday before we finally get back above freezing, really. And then we see a little warmth there, and then it reinforces again and gets colder again as we get into February. So, not many at or above normal temperatures in the coming weeks ahead. Let's go back to the NAM real fast and see what it shows for precipitation, your winter type weather, and what it says for this next system. Remember, it's been showing a little wetter, and what I mean by wetter is you see a little more snow on these systems as they come through. Let's see what it does for the one tonight, right? Tuesday, here we go. 12Z, here we are this morning. System comes in. Matter of fact, it bumps through, doesn't show hardly anything, does it? Here we are at midnight or so. Boom, boom. But then it drags in some snow tomorrow. That's different than the HUR is showing right now. Now, so this is something we'll definitely need to keep an eye on to see if there's going to be any changes. There'll be an update to this by noon, by around noon. So like the 11:30 forecast, I'll have a really good update to this, and it'll show us this a little bit better. And the HUR will have some new information too, probably going out till tomorrow morning. We'll be able to try to figure out is there actually some snow in this coming along behind the system. And then so I'm going to go and check the 24-hour snowfall on that real quick over here. What does it say? Accumulations. It does only show 0.2 of an inch, which is about normal. I shouldn't have went so fast on that. Sorry about that, guys. In 24 hours, it says Lafayette's going to get about 0.2 of an inch. Very normal for clipper systems to do that kind of thing in our neighborhood, which is a half an inch or less. Occasionally, we get 1 to 3 when they're really strong. So either way, it doesn't look like much, but it will be an annoyance, and it's cold still out, and we'll have to watch our roads, just like we got that black ice the other day. Then that secondary trough goes by tomorrow night, right? And it doesn't do much on the NAM at all. And then there's the big high coming across. This one's they show it going dead right over the top of us. That's why it's going to get so cold. Here's your temperatures falling off. There's that little quick trough trying to come through Thursday night into Friday morning, maybe a little bit of light snow possible with that, some flurries there. And then boom, we're reinforced with some more colder temperatures on that. And then as we go out to the GFS, and the GFS goes out a bit farther, Let's see notice the storm down here to the south, Tennessee. Tennessee's going to get hammered, it looks like, or at least somewhere in this general area. This is the same storm I looked at last week and we talked about. Remember, I said it was like 8 or 10 days out, and I said there's a strong possibility it could go north or south. The models tend to push things farther south as they get closer and closer, and that is exactly what happened, and that we may stay totally out of it. At the time, it showed us getting 6 inches, I believe, on Thursday next week, and another 6 inches right behind that on Saturday. That would have been this week. Now it shows the system to our south. The folks in Nashville, Knoxville, anybody in Tennessee looks like they're going to get a pretty good load of snow. And then is there a second one right behind it, or does it go a little with the big old high right here settling in over Missouri? It blocks out the second kind of system coming through. So there's one that goes, and then there's a second one that goes on Sunday through there. Let's see how much snow they're going to get out of that. We'll go for total snow. Look at that, folks. 20 inches of snow over towards Knoxville, 14 back towards Nashville, and 11. Southern portion of Indiana even gets an inch out of this, but where are we? We're right here in the open spot, high and dry. We're looking pretty good for us. And then this is totals over the entire period of snowfall. And you notice there's very little. We are now I have this date out to February 1st, and it shows little to no snowfall for us. Doesn't bring a system or anything of any significance over us during this entire period out to February 5th. All the snow is south of us. And there's another system right here. Look at how much more snow they're going to be getting down here in Tennessee, right? I've always believed in this, and I've seen this so many times when a low pressure system goes through and another one comes in behind it. They seem to take the same track. Sometimes hurricanes do the same thing too. It's just one of them oddities. I'm not sure if there's anything in it. I've never read anything about it, but it's in a way, I think to myself that it clears out everything and opens up the atmosphere so that the next wave can come right on through unabated. There's no big high pushing it or anything, so it kind of opens that up. So for us, now let's go to the European model. So the GFS is one long range model. The European is another. Now the European is usually colder too, right? And let's see what it shows. But still on it goes out. How far does it go out? It goes out to only January 26th, right? So it's not as long as the GFS. It does show a little bit of some influence of the systems to the south getting to us by the end of January 26th. Somewhere in there, it shows one of the influences of the systems. So let's look at the system itself and what it says. A different look here is what you're seeing here, different colors on this. But what it says is that the second part of the system, so the first part goes through, then it goes through and hammers Tennessee on Saturday into Sunday night. And then it does show a little bit of an influence getting all the way up here on this would be Sunday night going into Monday. And this wouldn't be out of the ordinary either, but not the heavy, heavy snows that they'll see along this corridor right here from Tennessee into southern to eastern Kentucky to West Virginia. And we'd be on the north side, although we're pretty close to some of the darker blues. Hence, it showed us what I think it was an inch. Let's see what Kuchera says. Kuchera says 2.4. That's one of the snow models for accumulation is Kuchera. I believe that is the scientist who puts it out. So it shows around 2.5 for us over the weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's what the European model shows. Let's see what their temperature shows on the European model, because the European model is the one that scared everybody over the weekend, saying that Lafayette was going to hit -20, that kind of thing. It's not showing it now. Here's the temperatures are very similar. I don't see anything out of the ordinary there, 20s and 30s like it shows for a day or two. It does show the cold now. Look at it. It shows us getting to -4 or so right there on Friday morning, okay? And the cold a little colder. So at least it's not showing this, -20, -15, like it showed on, I think it was Friday night into Saturday, the models changed. And then it reinforces the cold. Remember I said it would get colder on Friday? And there it does take us all the way down to -10 on this would be Saturday morning, like at 3 in the morning, and then starting to warm up a little bit after that and reinforced. It just keeps us cold there. So that's the -10 on there. Don't jump on that right away. I'm going to stick with the GFS. The GFS has been closer lately, especially on those longer range temperatures. But obviously, a big high is going to come down and cut across, and we're going to get cold. and we'll keep an eye on it. Have yourself ready because these temperatures do look a little bit colder than we had the last couple days. So, we hit 0 to what, +2 yesterday, and I think early this morning we were down around 0 also. So, just kind of think about that. Your reference is going to be maybe 5 degrees colder for this system to even as much as 10, that which could get us to that -10. But we'll keep an eye on that for Friday and Saturday mornings. Um, I'm going to go back out to the actual observations right now. This was at 13Z, so this was an hour ago. Let's update this one real quick. I'm probably have to reset the whole thing. Uh, Surface maps, there we go. Raw METARs. If you're following along, I'm at the College of DuPage. This is their weather page, and this has all the model data on it that we use as weather people. And I use this one because I like the colors. That's basically how I do it. You go into weather data. When you click on weather data, you can get analysis. You can get satellite and radars, and I use those that I showed you before. I showed you all the numerical models that we were using. Now I'm into the text products, and I'm going to go to the state of Indiana, and it lines them all up in alphabetical order for you and kind of gives you an idea. Now, here's Lafayette. Lafayette is KLAF for your reference. It showed a dead calm wind. Zeros are dead calm. Unrestricted visibility, 10 statute miles, because they use statute miles. Says the skies are clear. It won't always pick up everything, but occasionally it does. It gives you temperatures in Celsius, -16 and -19. And then the altimeter is 3044 for you pilots, very high out there for you guys. And then it just, the remarks tells you what kind of machine it is that's giving you the weather. Over at Grissom right now, -15. They got an 8-knot wind over there. Indianapolis, here's Indianapolis right here. They're showing 6 knots and their temperature is -13. I like to line them up one in right behind each other and not in alphabetical order. Well, it's in alphabetical order, but I can see like the whole line of temperatures. Plus, it's giving me Fahrenheit. I've been working in Fahrenheit for so long, and I use Celsius all the time when I was in Antarctica, but lately it's been mostly Fahrenheit. This showed you what the temperature was at 1424. It actually shows 3 degrees. 3 degrees out there. This was the report at the airport at 1424. So that was a half an hour ago. Still showed 3 degrees. So I'm starting to question some. See, look at this. Current weather says 11. Where's this weather at? Lafayette, Indiana, it says. So I'm starting to question this because I can see what it actually is out at the airport. It's still 3 degrees out there. So the MSN, I'm not sure if it's actually got the temperature right. Believe the runway right now. This is official. They always take the temperatures officially out at the airport. Calm winds, temperatures 3, dew point is -2. Very consistent. It will warm up as the day goes on today. Just about everybody in single digits. Did anybody get below 0 right now? Valpo's at 1. Gary's up there at 1. Back down to the south. There you go. Rensselaer's at 1, and we're at 3 currently. So some cold temperatures. You got to go downstate to find some double digits. Evansville's at 14 right now, so very cold for them too. And like I said, now you know why I don't trust these bugs right here. The airport's reporting 3. This thing's showing 11. Well, it may have updated. I don't know where they're taking this temperature from. See, there's where the difference is. I thought they would be using the weather at the airport. West Lafayette, Indiana, which to me says the airport, but it's not showing that, right? So something to keep in mind on those for temperatures. Is it just taking model data and shoving it in there, and the model says it should be 11 right now? Don't always trust that. If you can get it from the airport, you know you're getting the correct information. And the airport right now says 3 degrees. This will update any moment on that, and then we'll see what's going on that front. So there we are, caught up. Hopefully, you were able to get in and see what happened to me this morning, which was no sound. I basically had to turn YouTube off and turn it back on, and then it started working. So I'll have to keep these things in my mind because I'm my own producer at the moment, right? And there's a lot of weather things that have been going on, obviously, in my world. There is a lot of sports things going on, and that's what we're going to get into next is sports. I heard there was a football game last night. Anybody in Purdue watch it? Anybody in West Lafayette? Of course we watched it. And of course, Indiana, and Indiana team is now the national champion in football. Can you believe it? They're calling it the worst to first kind of thing because Indiana was so bad, one of the worst teams in the country in football ever. Over that was just 2 years ago. They were like that. And now they win the national championship, beating Miami last night 27-21. There was a late interception by Indiana that kind of sealed the game up. They had made a couple mistakes near the end. There was a false start when they could have just like iced the game. And they ended up having to kick a field goal because they were way down in their territory. It was late. That gave Miami a chance to come back and maybe win it. But Indiana held on. There was a pick, not a pick six, but there was a pick late in the game there. Then they just kneeled twice and they ended up winning the game. So, wow, some really good plays in that ball game. I actually got to watch most of it. It was streamed on YouTube in a couple places, so that was kind of nice. So yeah, yes, Indiana is the national champions. Kurt Signetti, who is the coach, they went out and they did it. The program that was once the least successful in all of football, and now I hope they're not handing the mantle down to Purdue on that. Uh, one of the least successful in FBS history. It felt hard to believe the losingest program in FBS history would have much staying power. So people didn't believe in them at all. But they kept beating everybody and they kept beating everybody soundly. Then they were like, well, the schedule's not that hard. Then they beat Ohio State. Then they beat the next team, right? Uh, and they had lost last year, I believe it was, in the opening round to Notre Dame. So people just didn't believe in them, right? Cute story, those Hoosiers, but yeah, we'll see. Um, they should leave the real football to the real blue bloods, right? Well, cue the Kurt Signetti stare down. Yeah, boy, he does have a stare down, doesn't he? He doesn't look like he says much. He looks like he's mad all the time, but most football coaches look like that, right? So, um, maybe you want to go ahead and take a look on Google for a picture for him, and you might find something that shows him staring things down, right? But Indiana might have been poo-pooed as a one-year wonder, right? Just last year, but here they came right back this year. I think they started off ranked 20th or something like that, and they picked to finish like sixth in the Big Ten preseason. But fueled by perceived disrespect, that's our Purdue basketball team, right? I think the same thing. Nobody still shows them any respect, despite the fact all of what they do have. And they were just kind of desperate to prove it again, I guess. That's the way you think about it. When you're disrespected, you feel like you got to show somebody. You get that chip on your shoulder. Remember the old battery on the shoulder? Go ahead, knock that battery off, and then you'll see what happens, right? I remember that from back in the 70s and 80s. Um, but they are the first team. Let's see, it's the first national championship while becoming the first major college team since Yale in 1894 to go 16-0. Wow, there you go 130 years back to find a team to go 16-0. They played a lot of games back there, Yale did. It's a great story, Signetti said, tremendous story. Most people would tell you that are in the know. It's probably one of the greatest stories of all time. All right, Signetti sounds like our president, one of the greatest stories of all time. But in reality, it is a really great story, right? Indiana might not have won by 30 the way it did in previous playoff victories, but the Hoosiers played with the same confident flair, punctuated by the call of the game, right? On 4th and 4 from the Miami 12, and the Hoosiers up 3 points. Signetti called a quarterback run for Fernando Mendoza. That is the play of the game. That's the one you'll see the highlights of. He pushed up the middle. He bullied his way through the Miami defense, and he busted multiple tackles before he kind of dove out across the goal line for the touchdown. That's the play you're going to see everywhere, right? But there were a lot of other things in there. A good, stout defense. Both teams had pretty good, decent defenses. Uh, and it kind of summed up Indiana's season, really. They banked on themselves. They went after it. 4th and 5, I'm going for it. I don't need to kick the field goal, right? He had already gotten into situations. Now, later, he had to kick the field goal. They kind of went backwards after the penalty. There was a penalty when it was 2nd down and 1. So they had 2 or 3 opportunities just to get 1 yard, and the game would have been salted away pretty much, timeouts, and it would have been over. But somebody false started that put them back 5. They couldn't get any closer. They finally kicked a field goal. That got them from 3 up to 6 up. That's kind of how that worked out with that. But what a game. What a game. Uh, they asked before the game whether Indiana qualified as a Cinderella story. They asked Signetti that, given his success last year, and he answered, uh, with by saying define Cinderella story in the context of Indiana. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. That's somebody with a chip on their shoulder. Stop telling us we can't do this, and we're going to show you. And they did. That's great. Um, in 2022, Indiana became the first Division One college football team to lose 700 games, and now they're the national champion. That is a Cinderella story. I don't care what anybody says. That's awesome. It's a great story. They won 27-21. And Signotti finally answers this. He says, I think it's a fact. If you look at the records since Indiana started playing football and relative to the success we've had the last 2 years, we've broken a lot of records here in terms of wins, championships, postseason games, top 10 wins. Signotti said, it's been kind of surreal. And I can see that. It must have been his post game press conferences and when they talked to him. He said, this is kind of cool. He says, pinch me, I'm dreaming. There's a little vibe to that in the title run for sure. Man, you know, okay, so is this what happens again? So then it says, it goes on to say this, he trash talked the best teams in the Big Ten when he took the mic at a basketball game the day after he was hired. He said, hey, look, I'm super fired up about this opportunity. I've never taken a back seat to anybody, and I don't plan on starting now. Purdue sucks, but so does Michigan and Ohio State. Go IU. That was somebody with some confidence, and he came back and he proved it. It is. It's just a great story. It really is. Um, can you think about it? They fired their other coach, Tom Allen, in what, 2023, um, just a couple years ago. They were prepared to take the next step, though, with football. They wanted to do that, and they did that. So they set up the groundwork for it there at Indiana, and that's what we're doing at Purdue. We're doing the same thing. Are we going to have the 2-year turnaround? Well, next year, right into the mix of this stuff? Hard to say. Hard to say. But we'll see what happens. But I know a lot of Purdue fans are thinking the same thing. Wouldn't that be cool? Indiana wins it, and then like 2 years later, Purdue wins it 2 years from now. That would be awesome. What kind of story would that be? And we would go from basketball state to football state. Well, in between, Purdue wins the national championship this year, and well, maybe Indiana comes up and wins the national championship next year in basketball. All right. I know. Stop throwing stuff at the screen. Stop throwing stuff at the screen, depending on which team you like the most. But Indiana, the Hoosiers, have won the national championship, and they already have a way too early top 25 for next year. And let's take a look at this. I'll bet Purdue's in here. The number one team for next year, Indiana Hoosiers. This is the greatest turnaround in college football history, it says, culminated with Indiana winning its first national championship last night. Now the Hoosiers will have to replace Mendoza. That's the quarterback. He's their Heisman Trophy winner. He's probably going to go number one in the draft. He won the Heisman Trophy. So the Hoosiers signed 53 transfers over the past 2 seasons, and they're bringing in at least a dozen more this year. Hoover, who started 31 games for the Horned Frogs, could be elite if he cuts down on turnovers. I guess that's the guy who's going to come in and replace him. He was an important addition with him being black. Moving on. So that's them. Then it goes with Texas. I'm looking, then Notre Dame, number 3. Hey, Indiana football next year. Oregon's going to be number 5, it says on here. Ohio State at 6. I see a lot of Big Ten teams here. Miami drops only to 8th. Ole Miss 9th. Texas A&M, BYU. Oklahoma's 12th. USC's 13th, another Big Ten. Louisville 14th. LSU. Iowa. SMU 17, Michigan, the Wolverines at 18th, Washington Huskies at 19th, TCU at 20, Alabama 21. Alabama's still a great team. That's kind of a fall from grace for them, right? We're used to them being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the time. So not a fall from grace. They're still a great team. Penn State 22nd, Arizona State 23rd, Tennessee 24th, and the Utah Utes at 25th. Honorable mention, I'm giving you to Purdue, maybe 26th in the nation next year. We'll have to see how that is. That's my preseason poll. All right, go get them, Purdue. But what a game last night that was. Hopefully some of you were able to watch it if you were interested in it. And a lot of you went to bed and didn't care. But for me, I definitely thought it was something I wanted to see, and we were able to see, and I enjoyed watching a little bit of that last night because I haven't been watching a lot of sports lately. I've been catching a lot of highlights more than anything else. That'll bring us up to what's going on tonight. There's a big game tonight. Purdue will be playing out at UCLA. So that'll be something we'll have to get into. I'll get into the notes on that here shortly. But I wanted to hit real quick on some of the local news before I get into the rest of the sports. And one of the big things that is actually happening and was big over the weekend, and we made the national news, was the ongoing manhunt and courthouse kind of security boost after the judge got shot over the weekend. Tippecanoe County Superior Court Judge Stephen Meyer, he got shot in the arm, or he got hurt in the arm, and wife Kimberly got hit in the hip. Remain in stable condition after being shot at their Mill Pond Lane home Sunday afternoon. So that kind of made the national news with that. They still are looking for the person. There are no arrests yet. The multi-agency manhunt continues, involving, of course, Lafayette Police, Indiana State Police, the Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Office, and the FBI is involved now. So something to keep in mind there. We've got all these different things. It's a big thing when judge or the mayor or somebody gets shot. And the reason I say mayor is when I was a kid, I was a teenager living up in LaPorte. Some guy who worked in the LaPorte, um, in the government there. I don't know. I think he worked at the trash department at the whatever it was called back then. I think he got fired or something happened. Some reason or another, he got upset, and he got upset at the mayor. And he went to the mayor's house and he actually killed the mayor and his wife in their beds. This is when I was a teenager. So we're talking late 70s, early 80s somewhere. Some of you may remember that. If you were around then, but that was national news too. And it was only a couple blocks from where I was. My buddies and I were getting ready to go hunting that morning. So it must have been, I think it was hunting. It must have been in the late fall, or maybe it was maybe something else we were doing. All I know is the cops came and knocked on the door, and I remember that to this day. The mayor and his wife killed in their beds by this guy. The reason they came and talked to us, we were a couple blocks away, but it was a park across, is because the guy came out their back and walked across the park somewhere. So they were looking for him, and they did eventually find him. He was disgruntled. He wasn't a postal guy, but he was something else. The joke about post office people. But that happened when I was a kid. So now here we have a judge being shot here in Lafayette. The courthouse in downtown Lafayette is going to open, obviously, but they'll have heightened security. So they're going to pop a couple extra guards out there, keep an eye on things. Measures following the holiday weekend. That's what they'll be doing. Judge Meyer, or Mayor, I'm not sure if it's Mayor or Meyer, in his final year before planned retirement. So he was going to retire this year, was awake and alert yesterday. And there is another surgery planned to kind of clean up his wound and get that taken care of. Community and judicial leaders expressed confidence in the investigation while highlighting national concerns over threats to officials. Again, this made national news. It's been all over the place. When you're shooting judges and you're shooting people of authority in the government, that usually hits the news pretty good for us. So that was the big news about the judge and his wife. And it looks like they're both going to recover, and they're going to be okay. But got very traumatic. We're staying prayers for them and blessing the family there, so they can get through this pretty quickly and move on about their lives, and he can retire later on this year. We never want to see that for anybody. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're at, what you're mad at. Don't pick up a gun and go after anybody. Leave them alone. Just it's hard to say that to some of you out there. You seem to have to want to do some things, but generally speaking, we don't need to do that kind of thing. All right. All right. So obviously, we had a cold weather advisory that was big in the news over the last couple of days, and it's going to stay cold. We're going to reinforce that later in the week, and we'll probably have some more advisories for the cold later in the week. Um, there's all kinds of other things going on locally. The library's putting on some events and community activities. It says for today, a lot of this started at 9 o'clock when I was going to talk about it then. But there's things at the library that go on for the little kids that you'll be able to take your toddlers there, your preschoolers there, that kind of thing. Family story times all day today. They're doing that. There's a artist's own high school art show ongoing, open to the public. Also today, family story time at We Prairie Branch this morning. Great low-cost ways to stay engaged indoors during the cold weather is just to go to the library and read, right? So there, you can check the calendar, though, for the library. They've got something at the WLFI, but I'm sure the library on its own website will show you what their winter programming is and what they're going to use and when they have different things going on, if you'd like to do that. And I know a lot of you mothers out there, they're stay-at-home moms that have the kids. Maybe that's a good thing for you to run them over there once in a while. If you get a chance, maybe you'll see something on their schedule that you like and that they will enjoy. All right. Um, there's a tribute to a retired Indiana State Police K-9. His name is Jordy. Um, Jordy is due to medical reasons, so he's getting older. He served from 2015 to 2025, so 10 years as a dual-purpose K-9 with handler trooper Jared McQuarrie. Community remembrance for his contributions to public safety is in the region, and he highlights the bond between officers and their working dogs. That was a story on WLFI. I think you might want to see that. That's a pretty cool story on that front. Uh, so locally, that's kind of some of the main stuff going on right now. Let me see if anything is updated. Um, when you kind of do that, I went through that this morning and looked at different things, but sometimes they upset. Like they're talking about rural homelessness growing faster than cities actually are in the news. That's something they're talking about. You might want to check that information out on that. Cardiologists want you to know about MAHA's push to eat more fat, but they want you to eat the proper ways of eating it, right? It's not like go out there and eat tons and tons of fat. So that's in the news. The U.S. had a record breaking year for measles. It may be the start of a deadly comeback. Um, and this has to do with whether you're going to vaccinate your kids is where it is. If you didn't vaccinate the kids, then you may have a problem with the measles. You have to stay ahead of that kind of stuff and keep an eye on it. Uh, an Indiana bill seeks to limit minors' social media access with new rules. Let's check this story out at WLFI. Must have been on there last night. I didn't see it. The Indiana State Senate Education Committee has moved forward with a bill designed to change the way young Hoosiers engage with technology. Senate Bill 199, as reported by the Indiana Capitol Chronicle, seeks to limit minors' access to social media platforms. The proposal would require social media companies to obtain written parental permission before allowing a minor to create an account. Supporters of the bill believe it addresses increasing worries about the impact of social media on children's mental health. However, critics have expressed concerns regarding the enforcement of the bill, as well as issues related to privacy and students' rights. And I can see how they would have to hammer that all out, right? Um, Got to make sure they have rights and what they can and can't do, but they should be getting permission from their parents, their guardians, whoever they may be with. So they've got a bill going through with that. I'll be interested to see what they come out of that bill with that highlights on that. So we'll see what's going on there on that front. So there's a lot of different things going on other than just in the sports realm and just in the weather realm. Weather realm is big. Let's see what this says in West Lafayette. It says 12 right now. So let's go back to the actual reading of what the update was for this hour. See if there's a reading, see if it'll update here. 1501. Actually, out the runway, it's showing 9 out at the airport right now. So this thing is still warm. The last few days, it hasn't been like that. I hadn't noticed that last week at all. But this current weather bug for West Lafayette and Lafayette is too warm, basically. So, man, that's the way it works. Let's just type in Lafayette instead of West Lafayette, see if we get something different. Indiana. And see, it shows the same because the airport's in the same place, but it's still showing warmer temperatures than it actually is outside right now. Current temperature is 9 degrees currently. So, and I know you guys couldn't see that. I was looking at it. Sorry about that. I should have explained that a little bit more as to what was going on. Okay, so the big football game last night, done and over with. Our Indiana Hoosiers. And yes, if you're a Purdue fan, you can root for the Hoosiers. In this case, because they were going for the national championship. In any game, Purdue against Indiana, I'm going to root for Purdue. All right. And I know Indiana fans that are going to do the same thing. Any game, Indiana versus Purdue, they're going to root for Purdue, Indiana. But if Purdue was in the national championship for the football game, they would be rooting for Purdue because it's an Indiana thing, not a got to be stuck in my. I am stuck in Purdue. Don't get me wrong with that, like many of us are out there. But it was exciting to see an Indiana team win. If Ball State had been there, if Notre Dame had been there, I would have been excited for them too. Same thing for basketball, though now it's Purdue this year. They'll be their chance to run for the national championship. and they've got a ball game tonight out at UCLA. And who is going to be staying up till 10 o'clock tonight? Because that's when the game comes on. It comes on Peacock or NBC Sports Network. You'll be able to find it there. You still can find it on the radio as you normally will on the Purdue Global Radio Network. And you're going to listen to Rob Blackman and Bobby Rydell. I know Bobby. Played baseball with my son when he was younger. And we'll be listening to them probably on the radio if I can't find it. 10 o'clock, I'll still catch the first half at least, maybe a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. UCLA is 12-6 right now. They're 4-3 in the Big Ten. Purdue is 17-1, and obviously they are 7-0 in the Big Ten, and they are leading the Big Ten along with Nebraska at 7-0. They are the only two undefeated in the Big Ten right now in conference play. And Nebraska is 18-0 and have now moved up to like seventh or eighth in the standings for rankings. And Purdue is number 4 right now. So as expected, Purdue started off number 1, dropped to 5, but they've now won 9 in a row. 9 in a row. So they bumped up to number 4 after Michigan lost and Iowa State lost 2. That's how Purdue kind of moved up to number 4. This will be a wrap up of their West Coast tour, right? They went out and they beat USC on Saturday. Hard nosed game in that game. Stuck with it, and they got the win. At one stretch, they were 14 points behind in the first 10 minutes of the game, but then they just pretty much outplayed USC for the rest of the game, although it stayed fairly close because they had to make up 14 points in the first place. And towards the end of the game, even USC was still up by 3 points. After Purdue had taken the lead, USC took it back, and then Purdue took it and won the game straight out. They ended on something like, I think I still have the numbers here. Do I have them on there? They were down 22-8 early, and they ended up outscoring them 61-42 the rest of the game. So the last 3 quarters of the game was all Purdue, right? That's how that kind of ended up like that. That was on Saturday against USC. But tonight against UCLA, obviously UCLA has been a stalwart. They're considered one of the blue bloods after all of their championships, mainly back in the 70s and the 80s. Well, even the 60s, I guess, when they won so many in a row there. So they'll wrap that up tonight. It's at Pauley Pavilion. They haven't won there, at least these seniors have not. And it's the first time actually Purdue's been out there since 26 years ago. So we're talking 1999 or 2000 they were out there. Looks like 1999, December 30th was the last time they were out there. They're looking to sweep out on the West Coast. And the contest will be the third in a 5-game stretch against quad 1 opponents. They already played Iowa. They beat them. They played USC. They beat them. They're going to play UCLA, and then they're going to play Illinois and Indiana all back to back. So they'll play tonight. Hopefully they'll win that game. Then they'll come back Saturday. They're going to play Illinois at home, and then they're going to go to Indiana next Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever day that is. So tough schedule. Tough schedule in February too. If this team gets through this solidly, and I still think there's potential they could win it out. Sure. That's what I'm rooting for. Every game. What's the next game in front of you? You just play that. You don't worry about what ends up at the end. You're already 7 games into it. So, but I had stated at the beginning of the year, I thought they'd lose 3 games total. One would be in the preseason in the non-conference stuff that happened. And there would be 1 or 2 losses during the season and maybe 1 in the Big Ten tournament possibly, and then they would win the NCAA championship is how that would work. That's what I was stating. I put out a video about that earlier and kind of showed some of the numbers that guys were talking about. And maybe I'll pop those numbers up tomorrow and show you what I was thinking, because some of them have come pretty good. I thought Trey Kaufman-Renn would step back a little bit with his scoring, just not as much as he has, and pick up his rebounding, and he did more with his rebounding. So he's been there. Pretty close on Braden Smith, the floor general. He's pretty close. So a lot of the guys are doing well. Clough is averaging like a double-double. A lot of the guys off the bench are coming in. They're scoring like 20 points a game off the bench. How many teams in the country can do that? There was like an 8 out of 10 game stretch they did that. And then there was a couple games that they didn't because they didn't play as much. But that's going to happen too. So a solid team that Purdue has. The Boilermakers will return home on Saturday, obviously, to face number 11 Illinois. So Illinois is number 11 in the country. And that's a hammer down cancer game if you're getting out to that. So think about that one there. But tonight, they will meet for the 15th time, Purdue and UCLA, and the Bruins lead 10-4. A lot of these games were way back when UCLA was a powerhouse, right? They're not quite that anymore, for sure. And it will mark Purdue's first appearance at Pauley since December 30th, 1999. And that score of that game was 55-53, a UCLA victory in 1999. Wow. That was a Gene Katie game right there. Definitely slowed that bad boy down. They almost pulled off the victory on that one. Now, UCLA's 71.4% winning percentage against Purdue is the second highest winning percentage against the Boilermakers with a minimum of at least 10 meetings, just behind North Carolina, which is at 727. Two blue bloods, obviously, right? Purdue defeated UCLA a year ago in Mackey, and the Boilermakers' first win against UCLA since 1959-60 season. So you see how all those wins in the 60s and 70s were against Purdue when they would go out there or they'd come here, and they were a juggernaut back then. All right, last year, Trey Kaufman-Renn scored 29 points and Braden Smith had 23, along with 8 assists and 4 steals in last year's win, basically. And Mike Cronin has 515 wins. He's the coach of UCLA, while Matt Painter has 513. And they have the most wins for any active coaches aged 55 or younger. 55 or younger, because we still got Izzo running around there with all his victories. And I don't know how many more years he's going, but he's over 55. Always got to put a little stipulation there for victories. Not bad, huh? To be the number 2 guy, and you may get within a game of the other guy tonight if you can win a game, and you're under 55 years old. A lot of good things still coming for Matt Painter and the Purdue Boilermakers, that's for sure. So they rallied from 14 points down in the first half last week, and they outscored them 12-4 over the final 3 minutes to earn the victory in the entire game last week when they won 69-65, 69-64, sorry. They're 7-0 in the Big Ten. Boy, they started the 17-18 season off at 12-0. So that was the only the third time in the last 80 years that the team has started off at 7-0. So that's what they're shooting for. I still think it's a possibility that this team could bear down and run over people and beat some of the best teams pretty handily when they put their mind to it. They seem to play better against the better teams, and not the Iowa State game, obviously. That can happen to any team, all right? You can get blown out by anybody any given time. You come out a little flat, they come out great, you get blown out. Iowa State's a really good team. So, but if you do that against Michigan, you're going to get beat, right? You do that against Michigan State, you're going to get beat probably. So you come out, you bring forth your best foot forward, and usually this Purdue team does do that. And then they have a tendency to just play off a little bit on some of the lesser teams. And that's what we've seen the last few games. They still win. All right. Oh, we're upset because they only won by 5 or 6, or they won by 12 instead of 30, but they still won, right? So um, what else is going on? Purdue has played just one game decided by 5 or fewer points, and that came, of course, Saturday. And Purdue had been the only team nationally to not have a game decided by less than 6 points. So even in their loss, they got blown out. So Purdue has a nation's best 15 wins in the first 3 quads. That is tied with Michigan. So their resumes are almost equal, and both of their resumes are some of the top 2 in the league right now. In all of America, too. Having played only 2 quad 4 games, Purdue's 6 quad 1 wins are the 3rd most nationally behind Duke at 8 and Arizona at 7. Those are the only 3 teams with 6 quad 1 victories. And I'm going to go check out KenPom here real quick and give you an update on them, because it updates every night. So Purdue is still number 1 in offense efficiency, and they are now number 18th in defensive efficiency, right? But their strength of schedule is now number 11 in the country, and Michigan's is number 5. Duke's is number 8. So, and all 3 of them are in the top. Everybody else in the top 10 pretty much, except for Florida, who's played a really tough schedule too. They're number 3, has like a 30 to 50 rating for their strength of schedule. So Arizona's a great team. We know that, right? But they have played the 36th strength of schedule. Still, it's up there, but it's not single digits like Purdue is at 11th, Duke is at 8th, and Michigan's at 5. So that strength of schedule will get a little stronger again tonight as they play UCLA because UCLA's ratings, let's see where they are. I know they're top 50. They are number 42 in the country with the 50th rated offense and the 50th rated defense in the country. UCLA is, and UCLA is now 12-6. All right. So USC is 48th. They were 14-4. They were 70th and 44th. That's the game they won just a couple days ago on Saturday. Now, here's a couple of the other things. I just told you about their efficiency, right? As being number one. Their also assist turnover ratio is number one, right? Their assist, even though we get some turnovers at times and they pressure Braden like it's crazy, they're double teams all the time. Their assist to turnover ratio is number one in the country, and their assist per game is number two in the country. Field goal percentage is 10th, 3-point percentage is 12th, scoring margin is 16th, and turnovers per game is 20th, along with a rebound margin of 22nd. All top 22 in the offenses. You add that all together, that becomes the number one offense in the country. Individually, though, Braden Smith is number one in assist in the NCAA this year, and Oscar Clough leads the country in field goal percentage. Clough and Trey Kaufman-Wren are 16th and 23rd in offensive rebounds. So a lot of good stats here coming straight off the Purdue men's basketball page through Purdue. And Braden Smith surpassed 600 rebounds against USC, making him the second player in NCAA history with a 1,600 points, 900 assists, and 600 rebounds. Ohio's DJ Cooper is the other, and I think he's going to smash a few more records before the end of the season, including the assist record. He'll start getting some more. Watch him get about 14 or 15 tonight. That's my guess. 14 or 15. He scores about 15 points. And Trey Kaufman-Wren scores 24 with 10 rebounds. Clough is 12 and 10, right? Something like that. Watch for them to get Trey Kaufman. And we got to get Fletch going. I've said this a lot. I've seen other people say this too. Fletch should shoot about 10 times a game from three, but he's only shooting 3 to 4 lately. Well, you got to shoot some. Last time he shot 10, he made 4 of them. So let's do that again. Don't let those 0 for 3s bother you that much, right? Get back in the flow. Go ahead and get it going. Also, after the game tonight, the ladies will play UCLA tomorrow night. So keep an eye on that. That's a building team. The ladies' team is. They've had a couple kind of upsetish games already, and then they've been blown out once or twice too. So something to keep an eye on for the ladies coming ahead for them tomorrow night at UCLA. So it's kind of a double West Coast trip out there with both teams going out. And the way the basketball is kind of set up for most of the Big Ten is they go out and play 2 teams out on the West Coast, and then 2 teams come and play them from the West Coast. So last year, Purdue played Washington and Oregon. This year, they're playing USC and UCLA, and Washington and Oregon are coming to Purdue. But those teams out there got to come west or from the west to the east a lot more often. So they have to do those trips 4 or 5 times in the year. And they usually come out and play a couple games and then go back, right, for home. So hopefully they're giving them a little bit more of a home cushion. Maybe they give them a little more home games towards the end of the season of the Big Ten. That might be something. I'm not sure how they all figure it out, but that would be something that would be a good thing probably for them to do that. I think to give them some relief because they're traveling so much, those West Coast teams coming through the Big Ten. There's all kinds of news nationally going on. Let's take a look at some of that real quick. I'm just going to hit some highlights. I'm going to go hit the weather again. It says here, this is this. I love just reading the descriptions at the top, right? The titles. Woke wannabe LA mayor melts down during radio interview, says she deserves job because she's a mother, then gets her own age wrong. I don't know, people. I've got I've just already just in the last hour, I've said 42 things that were incorrect. I misspoke or I said something wrong. So let's not get too over the top for some of this stuff. Here's one glamorous MAGA lawmaker who's 70 years old filmed throttling another woman during prison cat fight. What kind of highlights do we got here? Gavin Newsom rips pathetic Europeans for rolling over to Trump on Greenland as he reveals their grave mistake. What grave mistake? I don't think they've rolled over yet, have they? They're complaining a lot, but yes, they're gonna eventually we're gonna get Greenland. You know it's happening, right? We're not taking it over. We're using it to use it for security for us and for a lot of other people, right? And the Greenlanders are regardless of what you hear, most of them don't mind coming in with the United States, especially we give them a $500,000 each, which is rumored what's going to happen. I don't know. We'll have to see on that. Uh, so then here's one. Trump sends allies into meltdown with leaked private text and Greenland flag meme as world row explodes. So he sends them out in this meme. I got to show you this meme. All right, let me see if I can get it in big here, and then I'll pop it in here for you guys to see. He trolls people so often, and you all bite on it so easily. I don't understand why you continue to do this to yourselves. I can't get it, but I'm gonna show it to you. Let's go here. Let's go to the, all right, there we go. Back to here, and then here's the meme, right? JD Vance, you got Rubio and Trump, they're holding the American flag on Greenland, US territory, established 2026. If you can't see that that is him trolling you, I'm not sure what I can tell you anymore, all right? I can't help you with that. He's trolling people, he's trolling you. He's doing it on purpose, and you bite on it every single time, and, it's just funny how everybody melts down over that, right? Um, then there's a couple of these. I hate it when they throw in stuff about people in the movies and stuff. I don't care about their opinion, really. I just don't. Not very many of them anyway. Denmark sends substantial contribution of troops to Greenland amid growing tension with U.S. as Trump refuses to rule out invasion. Well, they sent 11 people or 12 people at first, now maybe 100. Do you think 100 people are going to stop the United States if we were ever to invade the country? Why would we invade the country in the first place, right? He threw that out there. He threw it over the top. Everybody panicked, and watch what ends up happening in the end. We end up doing something with Greenland. We get bases there. We take over control. We help the Danish. It's going to be there. Maybe we get Danishes out of it, huh? How about that? That would be great. Oh, here we go. Here's another one that's going to upset everybody. Trump to revamp the White House bunker as part of sweeping East Wing overhaul after demolitioning presidential shelter used since FDR. Oh my gosh, you can't do that. This is going to change the style. That's all they're going to do. Here's one. Trump suggests putting 200% tariffs on French wine and champagne after Macron rejected Board of Peace invitation as president shares text messages between the two leaders. And Macron's like trying to milk it. We agree with you like this. He's trying to suck up to Trump on this and this, but we can't have this with the Greenland thing. And the Greenland thing seemed to be the weakest of what he was talking about. But you guys been triggered for what, a week and a half now over Greenland and after Maduro and all that stuff. And now here we are a week and a half later and the world hasn't ended, right? Uh, okay, so let's see what else we got for stories. I'm just hitting some of those highlights, right? That's just the titles going across there. What are you going to see? Uh, here's one. Republican guru issues devastating warning for Trump on largest red state amid ICE crackdown. So there you go. Could be some problems in some red states. Um, there was a earthquake out in California. Looks like it's out near Palm Springs, a 5.1, and it was rather shallow. That panics a lot of people. The shallower it is, I think the easier it is felt. So it feels a little stronger, even though it may be 5.1, where if it's down deeper, it's 5.1. On the surface, you don't feel as much. And it seems to me that there have been a lot or a flurry of earthquakes in California this year. Is it me, or is it just, in the last month to 2 months? It seems like I'm seeing something every day. So I'm worried there might be a big one popping out there pretty soon that might do some damage, right? Stephen Miller orders local law enforcement in Minnesota to stand down and surrender amid ICE protests. Basically, it's as simple as this: when you arrest somebody and you know he's an illegal, just turn him over to the ICE. If they just did that, we wouldn't be having the problems. But we have problems with people wanting to protest. Nothing wrong with people wanting to protest at all. But legally, you're not supposed to be able, you don't block the streets. You don't go into church services. Those of you who keep saying we can First Amendment rights, we can do this, we can do that. You are not allowed to go in and disrupt a church service or a Muslim service or a Jewish service or anything along the religious lines there. You do not have the right to do that, regardless of what you think you do. And what's funny is Don Lemon, who was doing supposed reporting and put out 3 hours of data showing he was along with them, kept saying he's had the First Amendment and he's a reporter and he can do what he wants. You're not allowed to do that. You don't just get to force your way into a building to protest like that. They wouldn't allow it in other places, right? Remember the people who sat outside of the abortion clinic and they got arrested for sitting outside the abortion clinic. They didn't even go inside, right? You cannot go in and disrupt. You cannot stop traffic, yet we keep allowing it in places. So now they think that's the way to disrupt. Okay. I continue to tell you, if you're on that side of the aisle and you think this is an okay thing, you are losing people. You are not gaining people. You are not gaining the norms out there. The normal people don't sit there and go, wow, this is awesome that they're doing this. No, they're going, why are they blocking the streets? Why are they going into church and doing this? That's what your normal people are doing. They're the people that are generally in the middle, like myself. How can you get me to your side if you're going to continue to do these kind of things, right? Protest. Get your protests out there. Don't disrupt, right? Don't block traffic. Don't go into church services. Don't firebomb things, right? Don't try to stop police, but go protest. Your protests are still going to end up on TV. They're still going to get be pushed through. All right. Three quarters of the media wants that. So that's what will be happening. uh, what else is on here for headlines? There it is. Oh, here's the one about Don Lemon. Fired former CNN star Don Lemon boast he was the biggest name at anti-ICE church protest that could see him face federal charges. Yes, they are looking at federal charges for all the people who did this, who thought they were okay to do this, right? And then right next to that is the story about Lafayette. Horror as judge and his wife are both shot by suspect who knocked on the door of their Indiana home. So that was some of the highlights that are in the Daily Mail of the news right now. Just to give you some heads up on some of that. Well, I may go back and cover a couple of those stories again later, but we're going to get into weather again here shortly. It's 10:44. All right, we know that it's now showing 14 degrees as the current temperature out there. Let's see if there's any updates to this at the actual runway. 1524. Lafayette shows 9 degrees still. Okay, so it's still cold out there, but that would have been like the top of the last hour that we would have been looking at that. So let's go and start looking at some of the charts. All right. I'm going to go over here. I'm first going to pop into that MSN screen, right? I'm going to show you that. We'll cut across here. There we go. And it shows 14 degrees out there. I'd say it's probably, since the observation was taken at the top of the hour last hour or an hour ago, it's probably like 10 to 11, somewhere in there, maybe 12. 14 seems a bit warm. It was 3 or 4 degrees warm last hour compared to the actual temperature out at the runway on the airfield at the Purdue airport. That's where they get that. Only shooting for a high somewhere in the mid 20s today, and this upper 30s tomorrow, mid to upper 30s tomorrow, maybe the warmest we see for the rest of the month. Can you believe that? Rest of the month potential on that is what you might see for your highest temperature of 38 degrees. Let's zoom out and take a look at the satellite picture. And earlier, I'm showing you all this gray area down here is just clear skies, right? And what we saw here, you see this bluish purple color moving away. Looks like it's moving away, like clouds are moving away. That's actually everything warming up. So here this morning, when we were at zero, we were seeing a temperature that was in this blue. And now as it's warming up and it's receding to the north, you're seeing the warm up here in southern Indiana, Illinois. You're seeing temperatures. That's what this infrared shot is. It's temperatures that you're seeing. So open the ground out to our southeast. Some clouds, and I thought they may just barely clip us, but they were eroding here. Looks like they're going to miss us. And then there's some mid-level clouds here coming in, streaming in just across the Mississippi River, about 2 hours out. You might be able to look off to the west in an hour and see some of this cloud cover coming towards us. Maybe even quicker than that, depending on how high it is. And then a lot of high cirrus back off towards our west. I'm going to zoom in a little closer. You'll be able to see that color change in the temperature, see how it moves back to the north, with Lafayette being right about here where the cursor is. And then the little batch of that lower to mid clouds is now south of us. Looks like it's going to miss us totally. And then that batch out to our west over Iowa, out over here, some of this is even eroding a little bit, but some of these mid-level clouds look like they may get towards us by this afternoon. And again, you might start to see some of this out here in the next hour or so. If you look off towards the west northwest, you might start to see them pretty soon. But they'll come over us. They're moving pretty quickly too. So a couple hours of maybe a mixture of some sun and clouds there, another open spot behind that. The day looks pretty good, other than it is cold out there. Baby, it's cold outside, right? Here's the latest I'm going to go to the latest information. This is only going to go out 18 hours, and I'm going to zoom in. I want to come in closer. I mean, you can kind of see the pattern of all the cold, and I kept it this way because I wanted to show you where the cold was up to the north. But let's kind of look at it. Here it kind of warms up. Tomorrow morning, it only shows us around 2022. It may actually be colder around midnight and then warm up as the morning goes on tomorrow morning. That's the kind of big picture. Let's zoom in a little closer. Uh, let's get this real close one in here so we can see the temperatures a little easier. Or this morning, this was at 15Z, which is roughly 10 o'clock. Okay. So let's go to 16Z, which is 11 because we're only 12 minutes from there. And it shows our temperature around 13. And you notice that's what this thing is saying. It's kind of following what the model said. The actual temperature was 9 or 10, right? Probably out at the runway right now. So that's what it is reading. So the model says about 13 in the next, roughly now. You see the temperatures have gone to the north. If you look at this, we go back an hour or two. Does that not look exactly like the satellite picture? Watch how this, where the blues were south of us earlier this morning, and then it recedes to the north. See how that moves? That's exactly what the satellite picture did, right? That's as we warm up. And then there's a patch of 20s back down towards Missouri right now. Lafayette is right here where that spot is 16, right there by the little fingers pointing to. Here we are this afternoon, climbing back into what, 22, 23. If those clouds coming in from the west aren't too thick, we might hit 24, 25. But looks like we'll call it lower to mid 20s potential for this morning or this afternoon for your highs. And then cooling off by midnight or so, we're back down to around 17, 16 degrees. And then look at this. Here comes midnight. It starts warming up. There's midnight. There's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Temperatures now climbing back to 20. Went from 17 back up to 20 by 2 in the morning. And then we're hovering around 20 there. So if we go out a little farther on the model run to the 12Z portion of it, so it goes out through tomorrow on this run, we see the low pressure system approaching in from the west that'll pass by to our north, kind of keeps us warm, and then helps warm us up tomorrow. We see some highs there showing low 30s. And I think the highest it shows actually is about 34, but look at 35 to 37 is pretty close. So mid 30s tomorrow is potential. After that low goes by, stays warm for a little bit, and then boom, here it comes back in on Thursday. We start to see colder weather coming in. Look where our winds are coming from. They're all coming from the west and northwest. Where's all the cold weather? To our west and northwest. And so we'll start to see some influence of that by Friday morning, where bam, we reinforce the cold again, and it's right on top of us. What does that mean for snowfall, though? Let's take a look at the snowfall and precipitation types. And we're going to see two distinct differences here. This is the 12Z showing out through tomorrow, nothing happening. And then this evening, here's a system coming through about midnight. Lafayette's right about here. It shows most of it to our north. And then you can see how it goes by. But look at that little tail right in there. See this little bump? Kind of a tail. And yes, it's north of Tippecanoe County. Lafayette being here. Here's the northern portion of Tippecanoe County. So it doesn't show like much, but that means like at the very least, like we're going to see some flurries overnight, right? This is like 5 in the morning tomorrow morning. And the other run, the NAM, actually drags in a little snow with it. So that'll be something to keep an eye on for tonight. And your trip into work tomorrow morning, if you're heading in, might be a little icy and snowy, something to keep an eye on. Here comes the next system. This is Wednesday afternoon. Now we're into the evening hours, and there we go. That is 03Z, which is 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Brings a little band with another quick moving system across and drops a little bit of light snow and some flurries over us. This is not a large accumulation. When you go back and look at it real quick here, accumulations during this time frame show a trace to nothing, basically, from that system. But if you change and go to the NAM, for the same time frame, you notice it says 1/10 of an inch, which still isn't much. Um, and it doesn't show anything other than that. And then we go back and look at the precipitation type and remember the systems. Let's go back to the one. Here comes the one tonight. Boom, boom. Remember the other one showed just a little bump. This one drags some snow with it. And that's what this model says is going to happen. right there, and then it comes across us tomorrow about in the morning hours, right? So here's your snow. That is 12Z, which is 7 in the morning tomorrow morning, right? And then by 10, it crosses us. So 7 to 10, and then by about 1 o'clock, it's gone. It's past us, just leaving lingering flurries. But we're talking a dusting here of snowfall if that happens. Couple isolated spots will get more than that, but that'll be tomorrow morning. So that'll create some cloudiness too. But that system helps pull up some warmer air and keeps us a little bit warmer. And then it bumps the system after that a little farther north and shows a little less precipitation with it. So here you go. Here's the second system. Notice that one there. When you go to the HER and go back to the same time frame, let's see if we can update it. And we go back a little bit, it bumps some of the see that right there? The other one didn't show that when we went to the, NAM. We go back to the NAM, it just shows snow to our north, see that? So the 2 models are varying a little bit, but we're only talking very light dusting of snow either way, or none at all. So, that'll be for tomorrow, night. So a slight chance tonight, another chance again tomorrow night, and actually tomorrow's is more during the morning hours. We've been seeing a lot of our snow lately has been at night, it seems like. It's just one of those patterns we've been running in as of late, where we saw some snow overnight and that kind of thing. So now let's take a look at some of the long range forecasts. And we're zoomed in. And now this is a GFS, and it shows the same stuff early on, right? Dragging a little system across, then not much. This is the 12Z run. It's not very far out on this yet. We'll go out to as far as it'll take us right now. It's only 21% done. It still shows pretty good. We're out till now. What are we time frame? Friday already on this, and then it goes out to Saturday and doesn't show anything. It shows a high pressure system kind of building in, helping reinforce that we can see winds coming out of the north. We know all the cold air is up there for Friday. But if we go back to the 6Z run, which is the last one because the 12Z is not updated, it shows the same kind of stuff, and it just doesn't show anything for snow. We go all the way out, folks, and there's just nothing there. No snow, no nothing. There's a system that it tries to push in here January 30th. January 30th, next Friday, with some rain, no real snowfalls. So that's the one day that it looks like it could be warm too. When we put snow accumulations over that entire period, right? It shows, look at that. There's a big old donut hole over Lafayette. There is a huge system to the south. Last week, we showed a system that might come into our area. I think it was on Tuesday or Thursday last week, and I talked about the system potentially going south because the model kind of hinges that way. Way out, a lot of times it pushes it farther to the south. Sometimes that happens. Or it could vary and go to the north and we get some rain out of the system. But we were 10 days out. Well, now that system is kind of eyeballing Tennessee and Kentucky for some heavy snows. And we're just out on the northern edge, not getting hardly anything from that system at all. I'll go out to that in a second, but let's look at the European model and see what it says for 00Z. It shows them a bigger potential for snowfall for us. And it brings the snowfall in. There it is next see 25, 26. It says we'll get some influence from the system Sunday night into Monday from that system to the south and brings it in closer to us. And look at that. It shows potential for 8 inches. Let's shoot in between at the moment just to see what happens. But right now, I feel like the trajectory is going to stay farther south with the GFS. We're still 4 or 5 days till Monday, right? It's what Tuesday now, so we're 6 days out. We'll see what changes from now till then during that time frame. Plus, didn't it show more rain on this one before? So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's zoom back out so we can see the storm to the south. And it does show it here in Tennessee. Look at all the snow down here to the south for those folks, right? So that first system, and this is the European model. Boom, brings it up. Look at this. All this. This is a little bit farther south, but brings a lot of snow in through Arkansas, back in through Oklahoma, Tennessee, southern Kentucky. And we're talking double digits here, 12 inches, 10 inches. This is something they don't see down there very often. And then it just shows that as the second system moves through, it enhances, they get more here, but it pushes some potential up towards us too. This is on the European model over that period. Okay, now what does the GFS show? Remember, we talked about the big hole in that thing right there. So here's what it shows. And this is a 00Z run on the 26th. or the 20th. Oh, this one's actually started to get closer to finish. This part of the run is done. All right, so it's starting to pick up. That's why I'm starting to get differences in between the two. All right, this was from last night. Let's just change this to 6Z. There we go. Now the shift. Now look at all the heavy snow in western Tennessee. 29 inches of snow over towards Knoxville. But look at little Lafayette over here in the middle. We're in between, right? Lake effect snow is here. Big two big systems crossing to our south. Lots of snow there, and then towards the end, it starts to give us even nothing. So the GFS is showing us hardly nothing, but it does show the system. Let's take a quick look at that. There we go, precipitation type, and we'll go out back to the two systems. So what we're going to see is just the northern portion of the system, right? See how it bumps through there on Saturday into Sunday? See all the snow there? Last week, that showed this right over us. So it shifted it farther to the south in the 1 week. And it actually delayed it because it started off a little earlier in the week. And then there's the second system. So there's two lows they're going to go across. And what the European model does says is the second run is going to push a little more snow up towards us in that run. But you don't see that in the GFS. And then there's just nothing there. Big high takes over just like we've had. More highs, any influences are very weak. There's a little bit of rain late, maybe next week where it might warm up. That might be your only chance to see 30 again after tomorrow till next Friday. So it's going to be rather chilly, and a couple systems go south of us. When we go back to the European model, and I go back to the 6Z on it, and I go back to see the two systems, right? So oh, it's in the snowfall still. Let's go to precipitation. There we go. A different look on the colors on this, but it'll give you an indication. So here's the big high, right? It's going to cut across our south, and then we're going to get the influence of that system that there it is. You start to see it. So at the beginning, it takes it just out over here. This is on Friday. You see the first little wave go by. Then here comes another wave coming into Saturday. And look how big and broad it is. And the big, heavy snow is there. But see this area back in here, Kansas, Missouri? Watch what it does on Sunday. And the European wants to bring that to us by, there we go. That's by Monday afternoon. Actually, that's Monday morning. So 1 o'clock, midnight, Sunday night into Monday, the potential for snow. This is pretty much what, say, a low pressure system is here. The wraparound, I've seen this many times. So this does not surprise me at all. I think the GFS surprises me more that it shows nothing at the same time frame, right? Shows nothing at all. Matter of fact, has the low over here. So the timings are different, and the European pushes the second system a little bit farther to the north and gets us into the snow. And then so then that's why we saw like 4-inch potential on that. So this is something we keep an eye on for Sunday night into next Monday. What will that system to the south do? How will it affect us? Or will we stay in the open and away from everything? Which is what most of us would like. We are seeing temperatures below normal. When I do go back to the MSN chart and I go down to the bottom to see how our averages are doing and where we've been for the entire year, I like this chart right here. This is just the temperature chart. Shows us it today, way out here. Here we are in January, right? Your lows are the dotted dash line on the bottom. Your general average highs are the dash line at the top. And what you're going to see is today, roughly, you're going to see a high around 33 and a low of 17. That's the average, right? But we're far below that. You see that on the dip, the big dip right here. Then tomorrow it shows us just a little bit above normal. Then we get cold again. One more pop back up in early February, then cold again, and then another pop back up towards the middle to late February. These long range, again, remember, the farther out they go, the worse they are. But I look at trends. The trend says cold, then a little warm up, then cold, then a warm up. So I don't see a lot of warmth in us. When I see cold this time of the year, below normal, that usually means dry and less snowfall. When you see warm, but you're on the edges of it, it's when you get your big, heavier storms, right? When you're close to normal with temperatures, you have a lot more moisture in it. When the system goes by and your temperature is 29 degrees, you get tons of snow. When the system goes by and it's 4 degrees, you usually get less snow because it just can't hold as much. The atmosphere can't hold as much when it's that cold. All right. And when we look back at it, we see a very up and down spring, very normal here. Nothing out of the normal there. Actually, a slightly cooler summer was on tap for us this year, especially in July and August. We were below normal into September. It was pretty warm in October, and then some up and down in October, November, December. Just like the spring, the fall has lots of up and downs. And then really, December and January has been all over the place. We did have a minus day back in December. That was our first really cold outbreak back there. Ones around December 1st, and then we had below zeros in around the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th of December. And then we're going to see some more of that. Look at these, some of these lows here. Look at this one here for way out in February. Actually shows a potential. I'm shaking a little bit. Sorry, guys. See if I can line up on that one right there. Minus 16. What? Minus 16 potential. Now that's again February 12th. That's a 30-day forecast. Don't trust any of that, but that's still showing cold, right? So I would see definitely colder temperatures, maybe a little warmer, then colder temperatures and warmer, and we'll see about these extremes whether we get to those or not. So that's why I like this chart. Kind of gives me a good idea. Shows me what happened during the year. Generally speaking, when I look at this, I just look and say, yeah, we were kind of below normal for most of our highs most of the year on average. And the lows were maybe slightly above normal for most of the year. So we kind of squeezed everything together this year and this last year. And this varies from year to year, right? That's how it works. That's how weather works. Let's come back on out, see me. I know you guys want to see me, and I should have took the drink before I came back out, right? So I want you to be prepared for cold weather. It's coming. It's not that far away again. We're here now in some pretty decently cold weather this morning, but there could be some potential for some much colder weather out there. So we always need to be prepared for that when we're going through those kind of things. Let's take a look at some of the other stuff we got going. All right. Lots of sports. Let's get it back into the news just a little bit. Let's hit a couple highlights, some of the local stuff again. We talked about the mayor getting shot over the weekend. Not the mayor. The mayor was shot in my hometown of Laporte. If you didn't hear the story, when I was a teenager, the mayor and his wife were killed in their home by some disgruntled employee, and that's small little Laporte, Indiana. So that was a long time ago. But this weekend, Judge Stephen Mayer or Meyer and then his wife Kimberly were both shot by somebody who came to the door saying he had their dog. I guess he shot through the door, but he hit the judge in his arm, and she got hit in the hip. They live over in Mill Pond Lane. That was Sunday afternoon, and this hit the national news when this came out because not shooting mayors, shooting the judge, things like that, people in our government, that hits the national news usually. If you remember way back when I was at WLFI, somebody tried to ram a truck through the doors of the courthouse. I don't even remember. I know they got the guy. I'm pretty sure he had a truck with some barrels in it, was going to try to blow it up. That was Lafayette in like, I don't remember what year that was. It was somewhere between late 90s, early 2000s that guy did that. I don't know what he got either out of it. I'm sure he went to prison. I just don't remember this whole story off the top of my head. Okay, in this though, there still are no arrests yet. They're still looking for the guy. They've been following cameras. They've been trying to figure out what's going on. It is a multi-agency manhunt, and it's going to continue. Of course, it starts with Lafayette and the Indiana State Police. You got the sheriffs that are involved also, and the FBI is involved. So the FBI gets in on it. You know something's going on big there. We're going to figure out who this person is so that it doesn't happen again. And because of that, since they don't have the person, they have locked down a little bit more security at the courthouse. It's going to be a little harder to get in there. Probably extra guards, maybe another search spot, that kind of thing. Make sure something doesn't happen. Judge Meyer was in his final year before planned retirement, so he's retiring this year and was awake and alert yesterday. And they're going to do another surgery to kind of clean up his wound and some things like that. But it sounds like they're doing pretty well and they're going to be okay. They're going to recover. Community and judicial leaders expressed confidence in the investigation while highlighting national concerns over threats to officials. I haven't seen anything about anywhere yet who they think it could be. But was it random? It doesn't seem like somebody would be random like that, but you never know. Judges come across so many different people. You never know who might hold a grudge, right? So there's that possibility. Other big news, we obviously went through a cold weather advisory the last 2 days, and I see that returning again this weekend, Friday into Saturday for sure. It looks like with very cold temperatures, winds don't look as bad. That's the good news. So wind chills won't be quite as bad, but we could get below zero Friday morning and linger there all day. Below zero to just above zero on Friday. So that'll be something we'll keep an eye on. There's a lot of little things going on in our local news. This is from WLFI. January is National Mentoring Month with the Indiana Youth Institute highlighting mentoring's impact on youth. So remember, that's January. That's this month. Local programs and schools like Mayflower Mill Elementary emphasize mentoring through regular activities for K through 5 students. Community encouragement to get involved as mentors to support young people amid ongoing needs was one of the big themes. And there's all kinds of ties into broader efforts for positive youth development in Tippecanoe County. And the resources available through local organizations for those interested in volunteering can be found at WLFI on their website. So they put something up on there for you. And to go along with that, with the mentoring, right, for this month, the library has a bunch of activities out there. And the reason think of this is my daughter-in-law is homeschooling one of our grandsons and our granddaughter, and so she's home, but she can go to some of these things sometimes. There are events going on. The kids are real little right now. There are multiple events at the public library this month. Uh, Anything from jigsaw puzzle exchanges that's going on out at Klondike, lap sits, toddlers, preschool kind of kids, family story times are going to be done at Holman. Artists for the high school kids, family story time at Wea Prairie Branch in the morning. I think that's this morning. Great low cost ways to stay engaged indoors during the cold weather. And I know my little youngest grandson and granddaughter love to read. So the library is a great place to go. They have a calendar. You can go there and find that. And you can also find some more information at WLFI or Star City News. So for the library public events, right? I also talked last hour about a retired canine named Jordy who put in 10 years, served from 2015 to 2025, and he was dual purpose. It means he just did different jobs. And his handler was Trooper Jerry McQuarrie. What do you mean by dual purpose? Are we talking maybe he sniffed out drugs at times? Maybe he just was like another officer in the car with him. It's hard to say, but he did all kinds of different things for us around the state and for different things for the police department. That's great. He's retiring after 10 years of hard work. Good for him there. Um, there is homelessness growing around our city. I think we've all seen it. We do have some care facilities around here for people who are homeless, but homelessness may not look the way many imagine it, particularly like here in rural Indiana. We see pictures of like LA, people sleeping all over the streets. Well, the weather's good there. They don't have anything to worry about. Here, it can be below zero, right? So rural areas have seen, though, an increase of like 16% in people experiencing homelessness between 2023 and now 2025. Remember how bad the economy went in 22, 23, 24? Now it's starting to try to recover. Well, that put a lot of people into homelessness. According to Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority data, during that same time period, urban areas saw a 9.4 increase, while we out here saw a 16.6 increase out in the rural areas, right? But those figures don't really tell the whole story. Homelessness in rural areas is more complex and often harder to see. And I believe that. It just doesn't feel like you see homeless people around town that much, but they're there. The housing director for the Jeffersonville-based New Hope Services said her name is Brandy Pirtle. So existing data on homelessness is gathered via point-in-time surveys. These surveys are conducted annually over a one-day period, typically in January or February, and it seldom provides that whole complete picture of what's actually going on, right? Because they're going to miss people for sure, and they might overcount in some areas. It's just hard to say, but probably missing people is more likely, it seems like to me, right? You probably are thinking the same thing. All kinds of building codes vary across all kinds of different counties throughout Indiana and different places where you're going to run into things. And so the data doesn't provide complete pictures, and what people can and can't do is different in each county and each different area, depending on what you're seeing and what you're doing. Um, it's all kinds of different things. Nobody has the kind of money just to touch a bill and have problems with their energy. That people they're telling a story about someone who owed $2,500 and they just didn't have that money, so then they were booted out. So now they're going homeless. They didn't have the $2,500. So this is the kind of story we see off and on all over the country. Um, and for some reason, the family wasn't there to help out for whatever reason, and these people went homeless and they were having problems. And they tell the story about that in this story off of the WLFI webpage. But it kind of shows what's happening in Lafayette too, and maybe you have seen that around for some people here or there. Here's one I haven't seen before. There's a big old Kroger's getting ready to go in down in Crawfordsville. I know a couple people in Crawfordsville, so some news for you guys down there. The grocer will soon begin construction of its largest format store, a $38 million Kroger marketplace and fuel center in Montgomery County. The investment in Crawfordsville comes at the beginning of a $200 million year for Kroger Central Division, building new stores and expanding or remodeling others. The new marketplace will also feature new specialties like Starbucks and fresh store made sushi. Yes, I like me some sushi. I hope maybe you do too. The contractors and Kroger engineers plan to open the new marketplace in about 1 year. So it's going to take a little while. Probably one of those bigger facilities. Um, the cost at $38 million doesn't seem like a much to me, but they're big warehouse kind of areas. A lot of those are. So maybe that's what that is too. Um, let's see. There was a single vehicle crash in West Lafayette and it left hundreds of people without power. This was yesterday. It was in the morning. 200 Duke Energy customers were without power. Roughly somewhere around 2590 North River Road, there was an accident. Somebody hit a telephone pole. Officials say the female driver lost control due to blowing snow and slid into a utility pole on River Road. She was uninjured. That's good news. And Duke Energy's outage map said some people down there on Happy Hollow Road, Soldiers Home Road, they had problems getting restored. Um, and they're going to restore the power. Now, whether they've gotten that or not, they expected yesterday to have it done by 1 p.m. So that's either 1 p.m. today or 1 p.m. yesterday. They were getting that done because the story came out yesterday. So hopefully they'll have that done for those folks and taking over for them. Some other national stories and things that were happening. We've got to cover a lot here again, don't we? I'm going to hit the national stuff again, then I'll hit some sports, and then we'll go back into weather to close out the show here in the next 45 minutes. 45 minutes, man, 2 hours goes quick, especially after the first hour was ruined. If you're just checking in on this one and you didn't check in on the one that started this morning where I couldn't get the audio going for some reason, the audio, you could see me, I'm waving, I'm talking to people. I had people chatting in with me trying to figure out what was going on. I ended up basically having to turn YouTube off and turn YouTube back on. Then everything worked. Isn't that amazing? But it took 45 minutes to get through that. So it's 45 minutes of me doing this with no sound, trying to figure out what's going on. It was kind of funny. And not kind of funny, it is funny. That'll be on my blooper reel, right? Um, I go to the news. I like to go to the Daily Mail. It gives me some headlines. I like to see the headlines in there. Uh, there's all kinds of good stuff and bad stuff in here at times. Woman whose pack of pit bulls mauled two other separate days facing very long prison sentence. Um, I know those of you out there who love pit bulls, and I've heard this many times. Oh, they're so nice, they're so great. But on average, we have about 25 people a year mauled to death by dogs, and of those, 22 of them are pit bulls. That tells me something about pit bulls. And a lot of times they're like they never saw anything, and the dog went and grabbed a little kid and kills the kid. Pit bulls. Pit bulls were bred to fight, obviously. And I know you love your pit bulls, but think about it just more, right? That's 25 people a year and 22 of them killed by pit bulls. So 90%, 90%. That's obviously in the breed. Something's up with the breed, even though you may love them. All right. And I'm just saying that maybe when you go get dogs next time, think about that. Um, for the safety of your children, grandchildren, other people around you, before something might happen. You never know. And yes, the vast majority of them don't do anything. We understand that, but obviously there's some kind of problem if 90% of them are the same breed of dog. Um, Here's a headline: Disturbing moment. U.S. citizen with no criminal record is arrested by ICE in Minneapolis and marched out in the snow in his underwear. And I'm sure they figured out who he was because now we already know he's a U.S. citizen and they took him back. That's how that works. They have, out of the thousands upon thousands of people they've already grabbed and caught, We're talking like less than 0.05% have been actual US citizens, but those are the ones they trot out there, right? So that's how you get your news across or what you want. Here was a funny one. A glamorous MAGA lawmaker. She's 70 years old. She's filmed throttling another woman during prison catfight. And there's some video of it. I haven't watched it, but that's pretty funny. She was a MAGA lawmaker. I don't know what that means, but she must have done something wrong. She's in prison, right? Gavin Newsom rips pathetic Europeans for rolling over to Trump on Greenland as he reveals their grave mistake. Well, how does Gavin Newsom know there's a grave mistake there? A lot of people think that Gavin Newsom is the grave mistake for California, and California would be a lot better off without Gavin Newsom. A lot of people think that in California and outside of it. But that guy's running for president. If you didn't already know, he's been running for president for years. So we'll see what happens with him. Has anybody seen this Timothy Busfield character? He was married to Laura Ingalls, right? From Little House on the Prairie. Um, that's her name. Oh, I can't even remember her name. That's awful. Um, they're gonna share shocking new audio from the twins who were he was on a movie and a TV show, and he's been accused of, molestation, which he says badly undermines their allegations. So he's got audio that says that'll show that they're lying. I don't know. That's a weird story. I don't know what's gonna come out of that one. We'll have to see. Again, give it 24 to 48 hours and more information comes out, and you usually get a good idea of what's gonna happen, right? Like, Trump and the Greenland thing last week. For 2 days, they were oh, their hair was on fire. Now it's calming down. Yeah, they're sending some troops over there. We're figuring out what's going on. He throws out a little jab every once in a while, like the meme that showed him and Rubio and JD Vance with a flag taking Greenland, saying Greenland, United States property 2026. That was a jab at everybody, and now they're all panicked again. He's talking with the Danish about it. He's actually talking with the Europeans who uh, can't see the reasoning behind it, probably because Europe can't see the reasoning behind anything other than what Europe wants, right? So Europe wants this big world order. Why? Because Europe has been decreasing and falling apart for decades now, right? So they've lost their power in the world and they're losing their power in the world. A lot of people see it, a lot of people know it, right? That Europe is falling apart. So they came up with this WEF idea, or they got on board with it, the New World Order, which then allows Europe to get some more power back because then everybody's in a box. Everybody's in the same shell, and we all do things together, kumbaya. But it never works out that way, does it? It never works out that way. That's called communism for a reason, where everybody takes over and the elites run everything we do. Maybe you want that in your life. Okay, if you want that, that's great. But the rest of us want freedoms and be able to do what we want to do and please. Well, Europe, because they're losing their power and they're trying to keep their power, they're trying to do whatever they can to influence everything that's going on in the world, even though their influence is decreasing and decreasing and decreasing, right? President Trump says, we're not going to do that. We're not going to decrease our power. We're not going to lose our influence in the world. We're still going to be the strongest member in the world for reasons of China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. Those are some of the main reasons that he's doing this so that we can stave them off if there are problems. And they've made advances in the last 20 years. As we've sat around going, oh, it'll be okay. Don't worry about it. China has made inroads all across the globe. Why did we go in to get Maduro? Because China was bugging around in Venezuela, right? Why are there things happening? The Belt and Road Initiative goes all the way across Asia, cuts across Africa, and is now getting into South America. Trump's trying to stop that. A lot of us didn't see it. We didn't understand what was going on. Part of that is Greenland. Part of that is being strong with our neighbors to our south, right? In Venezuela. And part of that is not allowing China influence. China was running the Panama Canal. Guess who's running it now? Yes, we are doing that. We are headed. People say, why are you worried about Panama? Well, if China's running the Panama Canal, which they were doing, right, and a war breaks out, who's shutting down the Panama Canal? China is. Then we can't even get through it. Then we can't do things. So these are obvious things that set us up. And like Trump says, we can still be all your friends and do everything you guys want to do and have fun, so to speak. That's I added the fun part in there. But we're still going to be a strong boy on the block, and we're going to be, we're going to take care of our people. A lot of people don't like that. I understand that. I guess if you do think that communism good and socialism is good, where everybody's in a pot, but it never works. There's a reason Europe's falling apart. There's a reason China can't do what it can do because it's falling apart and it's probably going to try to take Taiwan to help itself. Things like that. There's a reason for that. There's a reason Russia is falling apart because they are under communism. They have problems. They have all these things that that are problems that we don't have. But we don't see that because we're in our own little worlds and we're doing our own little things. And then when someone jumps on the TV and starts screaming about Greenland, everybody starts screaming about Greenland. We got TDS. We got TDS. Stop it. Try to look at the big picture. All right. The big picture is we're never attacking Greenland. That is the big picture. Not one person on Fox News, CNN, or ABC or CBS has said we're going to attack Greenland unless they're trying to use it as a poke at President Trump. That's it. He threw it out there as an over the top thing, and now he's using it as a meme to poke at people. It has always been a discussion with the Danish why the United States should take over Greenland because we can control the Arctic up there and we can control what the Russians and the Chinese do up there. There are minerals up there that all the countries would like to get to, and China was starting to try to push, right? And they're going to try to do that. That's why they're in all over the Belt and Road Initiative. That's why they're pushing all through Africa right now. They're trying to cut a road all the way across Africa, if you didn't know. Ports on each side. They're trying to put a port in South America so they have something there, all so that they can take control of the entire globe. The United States says, we don't want control of the entire globe. We want control of ourselves. You fix yourselves up, and we'll be here to help you. But we're going to do what we need to do for the United States. Not speak softly, speak strongly, but have a soft, tender heart when needed and carry that big stick and wield it if you need it. All right. That's kind of the way he's going. That's what it looks like, at least from my eyes, towards what he's trying to do. We'll see. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. It's hard to say. Right now, it appears to be working. We get everything pretty much he says he wants. We get it from the other countries. Everybody thought tariffs were going to be terrible. They didn't do that, did they? Other countries came to the table. We worked things out. Trump has now even suggested putting 200% tariffs on French wine and champagne because Macron has rejected the Board of Peace initiative, an invitation that he gave him for the Gaza Strip and Israel. And Macron said no, he didn't want to be part of it. And he sent a text to Trump talking. Actually, he kissed up to Trump. That's the way I looked at it. Let me see if I've got it here. I've got it on a page. He started kissing up to Trump and basically saying, "Oh, we're good with you with this. We are totally in line on Syria. We can do great things on Iran. I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland. Let us try to build great things. I can set it." And then he wanted to set up. They're going to Davos this week and try to set up together at Paris. It seems like we might be getting close again with the Ukrainians and the Russians stopping, but we'll see what happens. He's going to invite the Ukrainians, the Danish, the Syrians, the Russians in the margins and talk to them. They're going to have dinner together in Paris. He asked about that, but he sucks up right away, right? We are totally in line on Syria. We can do great things on Iran, but he doesn't understand Greenland. Well, Greenland's the smallest and weakest thing of that whole group. Iran and Syria are much more important problems than Greenland is, but he's sucking up to the president anyway, trying to make him feel good. And then for some reason, he's worried about the Danish losing Greenland. They're not going to lose Greenland. They may they maybe become a part of the United States, but the Danish are not going to lose. They'll still be able to go there. They'll get something out of it. At the very least, we're going to get bases from the Danish there, and we're going to be able to use some of the minerals there. We'll probably work it out with them, and we'll do all the work, and they'll get some of it, something along those lines. And they may stay Danish. That's great. But for some reason or another, we are going to take some kind of control over Greenland because of the Arctic and how the Russians and the Chinese can come across those areas. Well, we got to have something up there. You can't just leave it, right? So, horrific shooting by California dad leaves mom and daughter dead as older sibling barely survives a rampage. Wow. How many? We're seeing this like once a week. Look, if you're mad at your family, don't take it out on them. Please don't take it out on your family. I can't say that enough. Go get some help. Figure out what's going on, right? And then you can do something about it. Um, Uh, now we're back to Don Lemon and this thing here. Fired former CNN star Don Lemon boasts he was the biggest name at anti-ICE church protest that could see him face federal charges. He posted like 3 hours of information, like before they went in there, when they went into the church, and after they went into the church. And a lot of it's incriminating. In the entire thing, he keeps telling people he's got the freedom to do what he wants, and he's a reporter. He's just reporting on what's going on. But in the beginnings, he's telling everybody how he's going to go in with them and he knows all about this. And then later he says he doesn't know about it and he tries to play it off like he doesn't know. But the reality is, and he should already know this, if he's a reporter, you cannot go in and take over a church service or a Muslim service or a Jewish service in any religion in our country. You are not allowed to do that. So everybody there was breaking the law. Everybody there, including him, right? And then they'll say, no, he was reporting. Okay, even if you believe he was reporting, they took January 6th reporters and they charged them. So should he not be charged? I'm just asking for those of you out there who think you should take protests into churches. Where should protests be? On the side of streets, in places that are for you. Let the media come to you, you do whatever. Don't block the streets. Don't go after the cops. Don't go into places of religious where religion is going on, whether it be Muslim, Jewish, Christianity, Hindu. I don't care what it is. You're not supposed to go in there. It is illegal to do that. Don may have some problems. Yeah, I've already heard he needs to lawyer up. So that's what some of the stories were immediately yesterday, and that's from all the networks. The Don needs to lawyer up because he made a mistake, and all he was trying to do was get more clicks. Right? Really? In reality, that's what he's doing. There was a 100-car pileup in Michigan yesterday as unrelenting snow blankets all kinds of places all the way till to New England. A lot of that lake effect snow's coming off the lake, right? Cold temperatures, warm water creates snowfall. Having grown up in LaPorte, right south of Lake Michigan, here in Lafayette, I think we get somewhere between, what is it, 20 inches of snow, 15 to 20, 18, somewhere there. Can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. But in LaPorte, we get like 86 inches because it all comes off the lake. Every time a storm comes through, it dumps 5, and then you get 5 inches of lake effect afterwards. That's how it kind of works. And so if you've lived along the lake up there anywhere, Lake Erie, any lakes that are the Great Lakes, when the water's warm and the cold air comes across it, it dumps snow all over it if they can hold the temperatures that way. Lake effect snows. And we get them here in Lafayette. They're just not as heavy, right? We get streaks of snow and some flurries from the lake effect snow every once in a while, but we don't get a lot of heavy snowfall from that like they do up in LaPorte and Michigan City, Benton Harbor, Michigan, that kind of thing. Um, well, there's all kinds of things on it. Elon Musk storms back to MAGA kingmaker as he makes staggering bet on Charlie Kirk's last cause. So whatever Charlie Kirk was doing, Elon Musk is getting along on board with that. Nancy Pelosi, 85, is accused of being drunk after giving rambling speech at memorial for Grateful Dead star Bob Weir. This goes for both sides of the aisle. There's got to be a point somewhere, and she's 85 years old, where she should just go home and be with her family, right? All right. The Republicans have people that are too old. Poor Dianne Feinstein, they were wheeling her out in a wheelchair, and she didn't know what was going on to vote on the floor when she was what, 90 or 89, somewhere in there, and then she passed away last year or the year before. Um, that's awful. Don't do that to people. Stop doing this to yourself. The power is not that big a deal. Go home and be with your families. I there shouldn't be an age limit because there are people who are 85 that can run around and do stuff. Those people I'm fine with. It's these older ones that are struggling, and we can see them struggling. Mitch McConnell has these freezes. He's a Republican, and he just freezes for like 2 minutes staring. That's a problem. He shouldn't be on the floor and making decisions for our country. Let somebody else do it, Mitch. Nancy, let somebody else do it. All right. Before you end up like Diane, they're wielding you out and you die. Right. And that was the last thing you did. Is that really what you want with your life? Is instead of seeing your family and doing stuff with your family? That's what I want you to do. See your family. Let somebody else take over. They'll have another hard Democrat to replace you, just like there'll be a hard Republican to replace McConnell if he goes too. So, uh, what's this one? Oh, this one. I don't like this. A woman driver, 32, struck boy who was riding his bike. She stopped the car for a minute, then ran him over and killed him before driving off, police say. I don't even know if I want to hear this story. I'm going to click on it here real quick. Hudson O'Laughlin was riding his bike on the sidewalk, his father in Pacific Beach, a San Diego neighborhood. I know where that is. on Saturday around 3:45 when the woman struck him while he crossed an alleyway, the San Diego Police Department said. The female driver struck a 6-year-old boy while he rode his bike in California, then stopped for her car for a moment before fatally running him over and fleeing. The driver, who was turning when she hit the boy, stopped her vehicle for a couple of seconds before speeding away and hitting him again as she did so. So I'm guessing she hit him and he ended up in front of the car, according to authorities. I'm going to say she didn't see him. She wasn't sure, but I'm just trying to be playing what happened. David Morrow, who was driving behind the woman at the time, recalled seeing her cut right into the alley before running Hudson over twice, he told the outlet. Like both wheels ran over the kid. She stopped right in front for about 10 seconds. That's when I pulled behind her and got her license number, and then she took off. He noted that a bystander who was possibly a paramedic jumped in to help Hudson. He got up at first and was standing there all in pain, and then they lay him down and he stopped breathing right in front of me. It was sad, and then I left. That's what the bystander said. He's transported to the hospital where he died, a little boy. Um, I don't know if it was a mistake. Why run? You could have helped the kid, and you hit him again, apparently, right? Little boy loved swimming, playing with Legos, riding his bike, being outdoors, and had a passion for BMX, motocross, bicycle motocross. As of Monday afternoon, more than $46,000 had been raised to help out his grieving family. Hudson believes behind his mother, father, younger brother, and countless loved ones. That's a shame. There's a picture of it. There's a tight alley there that goes down. I'm not making any excuses. I don't know, but I'm thinking she didn't know. Thought she hit a trash can. Somebody pulled up behind her. She's talking on the phone. I hit something. I don't know. Or she hit, didn't know what she was doing, was panicked, and then ran over him again. This is crazy. We'll hear about that one. I knew I didn't want to listen to that one. You guys probably didn't either, right? Hate the sad stories. I like the happy stories. I want to be Paul Poteet. No, not Paul Poteet. Or was it? What's the guy's name who did all those great stories? I think I could do those, right? Instead, we see stories like this. Firefighter strangled wife until she vibrated so he could be with mistress, court hears as he offers shocking alternative death theory. Okay, great. These are the bad stories, right? Uh, Mayor of gorgeous Oregon City, that's home to Nike headquarters, explains simple reasons why it is thriving while neighboring Portland circles the drain. Okay, that's partially a good story for that town and partially a bad story for Portland. We all know Portland's been downhill for years now, um, but that's the way it is. What else we got here for cool stuff? The death of Davos. Davos used to be a big thing. It's where all these New World Order people got together. But this year, Trump's coming. He prepares to punch allies in the head as Greenland threat hangs over gathering of the global elite. That's this week. I don't know when he's speaking. Him and Macron are trying to get together Thursday to talk. 5 white men eating lunch in Minnesota, bullied by surging mob who thought they were ICE agents. My gosh, see, they were eating somewhere in an establishment. Leave them alone, outside, in the open, not in the streets. So, but we can't do that for some reason. We can't get past our own problems. So, what were the big news? Okay, before I get to the weather here in another 5 or 10 minutes, the last little bit of weather, and we'll see the new runs and how they pan out. What happened last night? I think there was a football game last night. Was there? Was there? Yes, you Indiana Hoosier fans are the national champions. That is for sure a great thing that popped up yesterday. I watched the game, most of it last night, was able to stream it, find a spot. That was pretty cool. Boy, they look like they might be blowing it. They had the lead. Miami kept trying to come back. It looked like Indiana was going to salt it away. They had a 2nd and 1 late in the game, down like on their 10 or 12. And there was a false start, pushed them back, and they couldn't get the first down, so they had to kick a field goal to go up 27-21. Now they're only up 6 when they could have just got a first down, and the game was over. It would have ended like 24-21. They could have took a knee or ran out a couple more plays, and it would have ended, right? Or even scored a touchdown. Instead, they kicked a field goal, had to give it back to Miami, and Miami went right down the field or started to. And then there was a pick right at the end of the game. There was an interception, Indiana got the ball at the 5-yard line. They kneeled twice. The game was over. Indiana are your national champions in football. And as it goes, the story goes, they were the losingest team. I don't know how's the word. They had more losses in football than any other team in the country just a couple years ago. And I'm talking over all of history. They were the losingest team in NCAA history. And here they are 2 years later. They are your national champions. Um, Indiana fans erase forgettable history with unforgettable title. That is exciting. And the reason I say it's exciting is because I am from Indiana. I am a Purdue fan through and through. I will go Purdue before I'll go Indiana on anything. But if Indiana's in the national championship and they're not playing Purdue, I'm rooting for Indiana. I'm rooting for Ball State. I'm rooting for Notre Dame. IUPUI, I'm rooting for you over everybody but Purdue, right? That's kind of how that works. So I'm a state guy. I'm a local guy. I like that kind of stuff. Indiana is your national champions. It was a great game. There's a play where the coach from not the coach, the quarterback from Indiana goes on a uh, quarterback, basically drops back and then he comes back through the line. Quarterback draw, right? And he goes and he scores a touchdown. He bangs through a couple guys and he dives. That's the video you're going to see a lot of if you go and start looking at videos of what actually happened. So, kind of interesting on that front. Um, Fernando Mendoza is his name, and that really was a pretty strong touchdown for the Hoosiers. That was earlier in the game, which gave them the lead, and then Miami tried to come back. So it was pretty much kind of a defensive struggle with Indiana's defense, even though they're lighter than the line of Miami, really kind of stopping Miami pretty consistently, especially in the first loosened up a little bit, but it was kind of crazy. Tonight, there's a Purdue basketball game coming, so let's shift from Indiana back to Purdue. Purdue men and women are now out on the West Coast. Purdue beat USC on Saturday, but the women lost to USC on Saturday. Tonight, Purdue takes on UCLA, and tomorrow night, the women take on UCLA in basketball. They have played UCLA before. They beat them last year at Mackey Arena. This is the first time in 25 years that Purdue has been out west there to Pauley Pavilion to play UCLA. And that game was under Gene Cady, 1999. I'm pretty sure it was Gene Cady by then, still then. Um, and they lost 55-53. What a game. What a boring game, possibly. It sounds like that was a rock fight, right? UCLA does have a 71% winning percentage against Purdue, and that's the second highest for any teams that have had at least 10 meetings against Purdue. They're 10-4 in the series. So North Carolina's even better at 727, and both those teams are obviously blue bloods. And a lot of the games that the Purdue played them is back in the heyday when the Bruins were the best in the country in the 60s and the 70s. Uh, but Purdue did beat them last year at Mackey, where TKR had 29 points. Braden Smith had 23. I think TKR is going to have a big game tonight. Big game tonight. We've been worried. A lot of people were worried about him. His rebounds went down. His scoring's gone down. He's given up some scoring so that everybody else can score. That's obvious. But the last game or two, he's been like just way off a little bit. So TKR, I say he rebounds. I don't know if he gets 29 points tonight, but I get it. He's going to get close to 10 rebounds, and he's going to score close to 20 points tonight. Braden had 23 points last year and had 8 assists. I think he'll get 12 or 14 tonight. That's my guess. UCLA is just not that good. They are top 50, so they will be a quad one win if they can get the win. But they're not. They're both of them and USC are about in the same range, just barely in the top 50. They're okay, but they're just not great teams, right? So you would think Purdue would win this. I'd say it's a 75-80% chance they're going to win if you look at the odds. They were a 76% favorite over USC, and they won that game on Saturday. Even though that was kind of a rock fight and rough game. And they won that game 69-64 after being down 22-8 in the first 10 minutes. They pretty much blitzed them after that, although the game was still back and forth until the last couple minutes when Purdue went on a 12-4 run to win the game. So that's how that game went on Saturday. And so they're playing UCLA tonight. It would give Purdue a 10-game winning streak if they can win tonight, and that would be the 8th time in 21 seasons under Matt Painter they've had a 10-game winning streak. That's pretty good. Purdue is in the midst of a gauntlet, though, of playing 6 games in an 8-game stretch away from Mackey Arena for one, road games against USC, UCLA. So these are the first two. Then they'll come home for a game, go back to Indiana and Maryland, then come back for a game, then go to Nebraska and Iowa. The good news about that is then you're gonna be at home for a while, right? So, this is the 3rd game this marks the 3rd game of a 5-game stretch against quad 1 opponents, because Iowa was at the beginning of that. So, Iowa, USC, UCLA, Illinois, and Indiana all in a row, quad 5, right? And the reality and then they're gonna play Maryland, right? But then they're gonna come right back to Nebraska and Iowa, who are both quad 5 again too. So, you got some more games going there. To 2 there's only the 2 home games against number 13 Illinois and against Oregon during that stretch. Uh, and Purdue's not played any real specifically close games except for the Saturday game, which was only a 5-pointer. The next one above that was like 8. So they hadn't played anything less than 6 anyway, all season, although some of the games have been tight at times. It seems like they play to their competition. If they're playing a great team, they play great. If they're playing a less team, they play less. With the one outlier is the Iowa State game at Mackey Arena that they got blown out of the nowhere because they beat some really good teams this year. They have the 11th strongest strength of schedule, and that's just going to get better as they keep playing through the Big Ten season. They'll probably be top 3 or 4, I would think, strength of schedule by the end of the season, and they'll probably let's see, they got 13 games left in the Big Ten, then they got the Big Ten tournament, which is 3 more. So that's 16 potential games right there. And I think they only lose 2 more games. If they only lose 2 more games on the road somewhere, probably, and they win out at Mackey like they're supposed to, even though they lost to Iowa State. If they can hold serve at Mackey and then only lose 1 or 2 on the road, or maybe one that's what I went for at the beginning of the season was just 3 losses. So that would fit pretty good. So we'll see how that goes. That's a lot to ask for in this gauntlet because February is even worse. The teams are even harder to play. They're going to play Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Indiana. Again, they could play Indiana twice, right? So they've got all these tough games in there that they have to worry about. They got to go up to Northwestern again, which they haven't won in I don't know how long. This team has not won there. If the team wins tonight, and then they go at Pauley, and then they go and they win at Northwestern in a few weeks, they will have won at every stadium this senior class. So that's pretty cool. All the different teams. Purdue ranks in the top 25 nationally in offensive efficiency. They're number of 1. They are number 1 in assist to turnover ratio. They are assists per game. They're number 2 in the country. Field goal percentage, they're 10th. 3-point, they're 12th. Scoring margin, they're 16th. And turnovers, they're 20th. Rebound margin, 22nd. That's why you're the number 1 team in the country. All of those things wrapped up in a nice little tight ball, right? And remember, there's 365 teams. 365 teams, and they're number 1 offensively. They're number 18 defensively right now. Individually, Braden Smith is number 1 in the country in assists, and Oscar Clough leads the country in field goal percentage. He and Trey Kaufman are 16th and 23rd in offensive rebounds. So there you go. I believe Clough is the number 1 most efficient player in the country offensively. So all right, so big game tonight. All right, let's go back to weather real quick. Let me hit some of the highlights for you guys before we get out of here and we call it a day after a rough start to the morning with me trying to get on air. All right, right now showing 16 degrees on the MSN little weather bug, but I'm going to go quickly here and I'm going to check. What's the runway running out at the airport? They're showing 14. So see, this thing is still running warm. Running a little warm, and that just came out a little bit ago, 20 minutes ago. So it's now not as fast as it was. It was like 4 or 5 degrees warmer than what the actual temperature was, but now it's only a degree or 2 warmer than out at the airport. Shooting for a high somewhere in the low to maybe 25 degrees if we're lucky today. And tomorrow, 38. I'm going to say more like 35 tomorrow with cloud cover coming in, a mixture of warm clouds, a little bit of snow possible tonight, and then Thursday, 28. Look at the cold weather coming in on Friday and Saturday. So that's the weather bug from the MSN channel for the weather for Lafayette. Let's look at the satellite picture. It's probably not changed a ton. We've got the low clouds that are passing off to our south, Lafayette being right about here. We have mid-level clouds coming in over Iowa, and look how they're drying. They're drying up and falling apart. That's good. That more sun means another degree or two for temperature for us. No big systems moving in, but we will have an overnight system back in here that will pass through and could drag in some flurries and stuff tomorrow morning, it looks like. And we'll get that too here. Zooming in a little closer on the satellite, you can see all the clouds. We are in the open right now, looking great. Clouds coming off the lake to the north. Iowa still has the mid-level clouds. You could probably look out your window right now and see some of this off to the north and northwest, depending on where you are. You might see a little bit of that cloud cover, but a lot of it's falling apart. But some of that'll be in and out during the day today. That's what we'll see for clouds. When we go back to the HER, let's see what it says right now for our long range forecast and our close in winter precip type looks like this. Let's see. There we go. And watch the system come by tonight. It does not really drop it on top of us, and I'm gonna zoom in closer so we can see a little easier. There we go. Lafayette's right here. You can see Lafayette right there. So the snow is to the north up near Lake Michigan, Illinois, Chicago. But there's little nubs here. And these little nubs are usually troughs of some type and hanging behind the low pressure system. Like here, it's almost like a warm front, right? And then back here is a cold front with a trough behind it. So as it goes through, it drags this stuff through. And then here we are in the morning tomorrow morning. And see this little nub here, which is like a low pressure system and a trough coming out behind in front of the system. That's tomorrow morning, 7, 8 o'clock. That could drag in some light snow. And when I change it over to the NAM nest, let's see if it's the new one. It shows that snow out here to the west. It's even got it a little bit stronger, and it's a little slower on it. And then it drags it in through us at 15Z. At 12Z, there it is, which is 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just off to the northwest of Lafayette. Here's Lafayette. So trying to move through. It's a quick mover, right? Boom, pops through. There it goes. Now, what does it give us for precipitation amounts with that? Let's look at the 12-hour accumulation, just 1/10 of an inch. It's hardly nothing. And when you go way out on the model, way out there, there's just nothing there. There's no snowfall. It's quiet. It's very quiet for the NAM for the next 4 or 5 days. And that's for just about everything. Temperature-wise, it's going to be pretty chilly. Let's go back to the HER real quick and we'll hit the temperatures. So here we are. There's tomorrow. Now, this is one of those kind of goofy days, right? Where we're going to rise our temperature up. We're going to get up into the teens somewhere. And then this evening, we're going to start cooling off. So we're going to get what, 23 to 25 this afternoon. Then we cool off to like 15, 16 tonight. There it is, 16. That's at 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock tonight. But then watch what happens. 16, 17, 18. The temperature starts getting warmer because the low's influence and the southerly flow starts to come into our area. Now, this isn't very warm, obviously, but there you go, all the way up to like 23. So your high tomorrow, believe it or not, may come very early and then get a little colder. So overnight, it's going to be warmest, then it'll cool off, then it'll warm up again late in the day, and then tomorrow evening, your warmest of the day may be 33 late tomorrow evening. See that 33, 34 degrees into the evening hours. So not colder at night, a little warmer. But then by the overnight hours, getting down towards Thursday morning, look at the big change. Here comes the cold coming in from the northwest. Lots of blue. We drop back into the 15 range for Thursday morning with a big bottle of cold air just to our northwest. When we go out to the NAM, we can see that. The NAM says 18 degrees, 15 degrees that morning. Does it get colder? And then look at this temperature, 21, 22 for Thursday, 20. And then look at the cold air come in Friday. And by Friday morning, there you go. That's 8 o'clock. We are hovering around zero, somewhere in that range right there on that. What's the GFS say for that temperature that day? It also shows zero, right around zero for Friday morning into Saturday evening. And then Saturday morning, it shows 3 degrees. So we're very cold again on Saturday. It looks like less wind. That's the good news. The wind is only 5 to 10 knots throughout most of this, maybe some 15 here or there. So not the bitter wind chills. If you call it -10 to -15, not bitter, it's still going to be cold. That lingers for a little bit. Stays pretty chilly. There's some more cold air with that. Now we're out on Monday again. I know there's some systems that bump through during that period, and we just stay cold. There's no even 30s on here. There we go. Next Wednesday, maybe a 33, 35 that day. Still being now these temperatures are closer to normal. We should be in the low 30s for our highs next Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday starts to get cold. And probably at the end here, it's going to get cold again. There you go. So we've got that. So now let's go back on the long range for the GFS and look at where the precipitation is going to be. Let's try the winter side. Yeah, there we go. So here's the little model for what it says for Wednesday evening. This would be tonight into tomorrow morning. It drags that little bit of snow across tomorrow morning too, with Lafayette being right here. So one model has it north, one model has it a little farther south, and the other one drags it through the northern portion of the county. So think potential for the snowfall to be very light tomorrow in the morning hours. It will be a nuisance, though, that's for sure. It'll make roads slippery. Icy conditions will be out there, even though we're only going to get a trace to maybe a light dusting for most people. Very isolated. Look at this long range, no snow, no snow, no snow. Here we are, Friday, Saturday, no snow, no snow. Nothing happening in Indiana. It's very quiet. The system I talked about last week, potentially for this week, said could go north or south. It's going much farther south. It was just too far out to forecast that it was going to hit. Especially then I also saw people forecasting -10 to -20, -20 for this weekend. We'll have to see on that coming up. I think the European model is not that cold now. Look at there's just no precipitation on here, guys. It's cold, just cold temperatures, below normal, a little warm up here or there, and no big systems moving into the picture. And this goes all the way out to Sunday, February 1st before we see some more light snow. And then there's a system. There you go. Sunday into Monday, February 1st into the 2nd with some snowfall in that. When we go to the European model, we may see some influence of some snowfall in our picture for the system to the south. It's different colors on here. Let's see how far out the run. Hey, the run's got pretty good. Now watch this. It drags it in across to the north of us, right? Doesn't touch us, but it's real close to us. Snowfall tonight. Nothing, nothing, nothing. There's another little wave. Nothing really involved there. Let's watch the system come in from the south, the one we were talking about for the end of this week. Here we are on Saturday, Friday night into Saturday, and there's the influence of the low down to the south. This is Sunday, and the European model wants to bring the snow up a little closer to us, where the GFS, the global model forecast system there, did not. It kept it away from us. So here the European model drags snow in late. Well, no, this is Sunday morning and kind of drags the system in, keeps it in here all the way through Monday with snowfall. And how much snowfall are we talking here, though? Let's take a look at this. Winter snowfall totals. I mean, that shows 8 inches. It's a little over the top, but let's keep it in mind for what could happen on Sunday. One model doesn't even show snow in the state. The other one says we could get 7 inches. So something to keep an eye on, definitely. Which model will be correct? The European model also gives us the -10 to -20 degree temperatures. So we'll have to see how that goes. But look at how it grows on Sunday. It just starts snowing and pouring on us. And 7.3, 7.9, 8.1, that's for the rest of the week, adding it onto there. But the system's about 7.9, 8.6 in Crawfordsville. I'm not biting on this yet. I just don't. I just think it's too early to say that Sunday, Monday, we're going to get 8 inches of snow, but we're going to watch it because the European model does that. And look at all the snow coming off the lakes up here to the north. 20 inches for the folks up there to the north. So a lot of snow up there with that. So that's the kind of deceiving, isn't it? You get one model says it's going to pour on you. You get another model that says nothing. It's not even going to snow in the state. You see how hard weather forecasting can be sometimes. So some of the guys are going to jump on that snow. Some of them are going to jump on no snow. And half of them are going to be right, half of them are going to be wrong. But the forecast is 6 days from now. It's too far out to forecast to truthfully be active that way or accurate. The model from last week, which showed snow in here on Tuesday, today, what pushed it back to Thursday, then Friday. Now it's into Saturday, Sunday, and it pushed it farther to the south, which I kind of believe more at this point being a lot of difference for us, right? So that's where our snow could be coming into the picture Sunday into Monday. We'll keep a good eye on it. I'll be back here again tomorrow to give you a good detail on it. We'll go through all those charts again, probably show you, well, obviously what's going to happen Wednesday and Thursday for tomorrow. And then I'll show you what's going to happen pushing towards the weekend as we get more information. But by Friday, obviously by Friday, we'll know what's pretty close, what's going to happen. But still tomorrow, it's going to be kind of iffy on where the low goes. Thursday, it'll be coming, the models will be coming closer together probably. And then by Friday, they'll be real close. The two of them they'll be 50 miles apart or difference on where the lows are going to be and where they're going to be tracking. And that'll make a big difference on whether we get snow or Nashville gets snow or Alabama gets snow, right? Because the cold air is here. So those folks even farther south are going to see some snow. And upwards of 20 inches near Knoxville is a possibility with this system over the two. It's one low that kind of dives and goes across, and then another one follows right behind it. And that second one is the one that gets closer to Lafayette on Sunday, and the European wants to give us snow with it. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep an eye on it again tonight. I might throw out a short tonight if I see something that mixes up, but I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to go through all the maps. We'll talk about the Purdue game, how it went, right? We'll talk a little bit about local stuff that's happening in the area, and we'll talk about national stuff. You can chat with me. You can chat me up, and matter of fact, I should go back and look and see if anybody chatted and got in there, right, real quick. I know I had Craig in here earlier. Nobody got in on this one, but that's okay. Um, but we'll be chatting up over the that time frame, and you can just ask me questions. Ask me what you think about a certain situation. A lot of you are going to ask about weather, what you think is going to happen. My buddies Ray are getting in here, Roger's getting in here. Pass the word around to people, let them know that I'm doing this every single day. I'm going to be doing this for at least 3 to 6 months. We may make some changes. I may not go 3 hours. We may change the time frame that it starts and stops, that kind of thing. But I'm going to be on here every day, Monday through Friday, trying to show you what's going on in the local Lafayette area. That's why I'm calling it Let's Talk Lafayette, because I want to talk to you, and you should be telling me what you think. And I don't think Lafayette has that anywhere, so where you can call in and just talk to somebody and talk about what you think about the local, what you think about Trump, what you think about the weather, what you think about Purdue sports. I'm big in weather and sports, obviously, and in worldviews, I have mine just like everybody else, and sometimes they can be crazy compared to yours or not. Sometimes you'll agree, sometimes you won't. But you will have airtime here if you chat with me. We will get you online if we can do that and talk to you. Eventually, I'll figure out how to get some phone systems in here and you'll be able to call. All right, so that's kind of it for today. That's our roundup for today here at Lafayette from the serious ongoing investigations, which we talked about the judge, right? And the shooting there, to staying safe. And our deep freeze is coming again, or we're kind of slowly going to come out of it today. And tomorrow it's going to come right back Friday and Saturday. And finding ways to connect through mentoring. We talked about local events. Our community shows resilience every day as we get through all these battles. And leaning on each other makes all the difference. Get to your church, get to friends, get to your family for help if you need it out there. Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Lafayette. Keep sharing your thoughts, questions, or tips. You can log in and email me at Let's Talk Lafayette live at gmail.com. Don't put the at the beginning, just Let's Talk Lafayette live at gmail.com. Or you can get on YouTube at Let's Talk Lafayette, and we can talk there, right? Stay warm, stay vigilant, and we'll be back soon tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Take care out there, everybody.